Folks, we are live. Welcome to which one is this? It's Talking Chris. I sometimes
One of the shows
I have to look for Jim because Mike doesn't tell me what show it is.
No, I have no
Because
clue.
he shows up on everything.
I do. I'm
He's
a
like
attention whore.
He's a stalker.
Yeah.
Welcome to Talking Crit. I am one of your hosts, Eric Tenkar. With us, as is every week, is my once a week work spouse, Bad Mike Battalato. Holding up at least the left side of the screen is none other than the one and only Jim Kitchen. And our special guest tonight, Bill Barsh, Pacesetter Games, the legend.
Bill. So those don't know, Bill Barsh is our go-to guy. If we're in the doldrums, Bill's always got something going.
If you're looking to lower your ratings, I'm your man.
And we've had way too much attention on us lately with all this good and game stuff. So we decided let's take it down a notch. Let's lower the ratings. Let's make sure nobody's really paying attention to us anymore, because then we can come back and take them by surprise again later on.
Look at this.
An ambush. That's great.
Fugly, Zatrin, Gary, Paul, Kim. By the way, Gary, like you saw, you almost gave me a heart attack. I was mentioning it before we went live. I saw that 2-week thing, and I'm like, oh my God, I got the wrong hotel room days. I screwed up my airline tickets, and no.
Glad I didn't get that.
Thank you, Gary.
So Bill Barsh, legend in the game industry, old schooler, used to run convention games at Gen Con for years.
Yep.
He was at the first North Texas. I don't think you've missed one yet. He's in the NTRPG Con Hall of Fame. Because he's just helped us out so much over the years. Known him for over 20 years now, and of course his son Ben has come into the fold also. We love Ben. Ben's another. Actually, this is not even a secret, and you know this, Bill. I love Ben more than you, so you know this. This is
legit.
This is no secret,
and that's okay with me.
No secret at all.
That's okay.
But so Bill will again be at our 17th North Texas. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about gaming. We'll talk about whatever. But like I said, Bill's just kind of our go-to guy if we need somebody to talk to, because he's always got a hot opinion on stuff, and we can count on him coming out with something. He's got some releases for North Texas that we'll talk about, and
we do.
Good to have you, man.
I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always fun.
And then Jim already ducked out because he's embarrassed to be seen.
He's like, I can't be seen with them this week. Let me step away, go behind the curtain. By the way, I want to thank Zach Glazer as the patron of the tavern. Zach supports the live streams. So
he's sucking up to you.
Well, listen, others can do so too. It's easy enough. It's just back a level on YouTube. But if you do it, email me and let me know. I thought Zach was going to push Frog Guy Games or Necromancer Games, and he's like, screw those guys.
That's coming later. He's setting you up.
Right.
He's like, this is my own personal capacity.
Yeah.
This is not me as this CFO.
He is setting you up. You're falling for a hook, line, and sinker.
We'll rope a dope.
So North Texas is in 3 weeks, despite what Gary might say online before he corrects it.
Yeah, I'm going to defend everyone who got confused by that, because very often, and the reason I know this is because of our publishing schedule at NTX. And I'll get into all our stuff later, but NTX almost always falls on the weekend after Memorial Day, because Memorial Day always kind of drifts late into May, right? And all of a sudden it's June and it's off to NTX, and that Monday's a federal holiday, so nothing's getting shipped, or your businesses are all shut down, and so it's I think really easy to fall into that trap and think, oh my God, Memorial Day, it's the next weekend, because it is a lot of times that very next weekend. But this year we have a week in between, which is really nice for guys like me. So
I got through my panic in about 3 minutes after going to the North Texas website and went, okay, I'm not losing my mind.
Memorial Day is super early. It's like the 23rd or 27th. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll be at the con.
We'll be at the con.
Pacesetter booth will be there, I guess.
Yep. So we have
what are you gonna have? Talk to us. Tell us what you got going.
So we got, as usual, the Pacesetter have a big setup there. We've got we sponsored a boardroom again this year. And that's because we're doing the tournament. We have so many rounds that it just works out great. Plus, we host Friday Night BattleTech. That you guys need to hide us away now because we've done that.
Gary got busted a couple of years ago.
Gary got busted.
We got away with, we got it under the radar for so many years, and Gary finally got busted. So now the BattleTech game is in a boardroom.
It is. So, so this year it's going to sound like, if you watch last year's show, I think I was on right around the same time. It's going to be kind of a repeat of that. We have another Holmes book coming out for
nice.
For NTX, and I know last year the reason we do this because Mike's got last year's.
Yeah, this is last year's gorgeous book.
Yeah, incredible.
You said there was 150 copies, right?
150 was it. That's all we did of the hard copy.
Absolute, and why don't you tell the story behind this a little bit, because the story is absolutely fascinating. Here's some of the, you probably can't see it, some of the maps in the back.
Yeah, they're hard to see on it.
These are hand drawn. These are the hand drawn maps by John
Eric Holmes, who did the original basic set for D&D. So several years ago, we got approached by Chris Holmes and the Holmes estate to produce all of the late John Eric Holmes's campaign and adventure materials because they've never been done. No one's ever done it. For a multitude of reasons. I think one, because I think the family didn't have a whole good handle on what there even was or what they had. So Chris Holmes reached out to us, and we were extremely happy that he did. And so we have been putting together, taking the maps that they're producing, that they got us. So we have copies of all the original John Eric Holmes maps from the late 70s when he was running his D&D campaign, including the first one we did was the Things Better Left Alone dungeon, which is the Maze of Peril dungeon from the novel. That he actually ran it as a dungeon. We have got the maps, and we did that 2 years ago now. Last year we did Islands of Peril Book 1 because he has basically an island hopping campaign sort of thing. That's where all his adventures are based around for the most part. So we did Book 1, which is 4 of the islands in the chain that he has kind of described. And then this year we're doing 3 more islands in Book 2. Book 3 is going to be a standalone with one of the islands. It's so large it needs its own book. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so that's what we've been working on. So Book 2 comes out this year at North Texas. Again, it'll have copies of his original maps in the book itself in the back. And then Keelan Halverson, our artist, he does a reinterpretation of it. I mean, it just makes them publishable. Because what I think the big takeaway here is the stuff that we get from the Holmes estate. It's fascinating to look at. It's completely unpublishable and darn near unusable. So we have to take all that and extrapolate out and build these big adventures based on John's ideas and his notes that we have, which are pretty skimpy, but they are there. I posted one today. I'll just sidetrack it real quick. Down in the margin, he had this giant, one of the items of treasure that he has is a harp. And the notes, this is one of the most fully described magic items that Holmes has ever written on one of his notes, by the way. It says, harp sings elf songs from the Hobbit. And the Hobbit is in quotation marks. So that's what this magical harp does. It sings songs from Tolkien's The Hobbit novel because the animated movie would not have been out yet.
No, it's true. Yes.
When he wrote these maps. These maps, again, are from circa 77, 76, 78. Probably 77, I think, is the best date. It might be 76 that we can peg. It's early stuff, super early stuff, right? So we're excited to do that. So this year's Book 2. You don't need to have Book 1 to play these. These are sandbox sort of adventures. Every island is its own thing. Online orders, yes. Online orders will open. We actually might open up a day or two before. We'll make an announcement. But at the very latest, the online orders for that will be June 2nd. And so that's kind of our big release. We're really excited about it. I could answer questions about it, but it's basically, if you have Islands of Peril Book 1, it's very similar to that. That they
and the originals are not numbered 1 to 150, are they?
They are. The original hardcovers are not numbered.
Okay.
We do have a softcover version we sold at the same time. We still have some of those.
Gotcha.
We didn't limit those. Those are just regular production books.
Sure.
This year, I don't know that we are going to have a hardcover version of book 2. We haven't. It's going to the printer. What day is today? It's going to the printer Friday is our scheduled date for that drop. So we're still trying to decide if we're going to do a hardcover version or not. I don't know that we will. We plan on down the road doing all kind of a revised version of the whole thing, and then they'll all get hardcovers and that kind of thing.
So how much more home stuff do you have besides stuff for this year than stuff for the Big Island? Do you have anything else in there too?
We've got the Big Island. We've got then we've got 2. He's got Port Town, which is fairly well described, in a town called Bryanthium. It's really hard to pronounce. So those are the 2 land-based adventure locales, and then we have the next level of the Maze Apparel Dungeon. Wow. So we have still quite a bit of material coming. We will not be waiting. We really wanted to get it done for this year's convention, but with me moving from Michigan to Florida and a lot of other things, it just wasn't going to happen. Not the way we wanted it to. So we're not going to hold off for next year. We're going to finish those up this summer, and they'll all be complete. Mm-hmm. But the book 2, the Island one, will be at the convention. And the great thing about that is Chris Holmes is going to be a there. Mm-hmm. So he'll sign a bunch of them.
He's a special guest this year. We should have done that years ago, actually. So this year, he's the first time he's officially a special guest. Yeah,
super exciting. He's actually running, and I didn't even know this till I put the program together again this year for the con, and I didn't even know this. I was putting all the events in. He's running Islands Apparel Book 1.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, I'm like, that's really cool.
He's a super nice guy too. He is
a nice guy.
He's one of the coolest low key guys.
Yeah.
I like people that know their place in the hobby. He knows his dad was really famous in the hobby. He doesn't try to pretend like, I should be too because my dad was famous and so I should be famous. No, he knows it. I mean, he is a creator in his own right. He's written board games, he's written stuff, but he's just a cool dude. He's a very low key, very humble, interesting guy.
He does illustrations for us for the books too, which is really cool. So, and we do try to ask him things, but a lot of this stuff he just doesn't recall. And so he's really good. Like you're saying, he doesn't interject himself into it at all. He's like, well, why don't you just look at it and figure out what it is, and we'll go from there. So
that's the kind of guy you want to work with. Exactly who you want to work with.
Yeah. So it's really cool. Last year we put out a kind of a playtest version of a RPG called the Adventure RPG. Because when we did this home stuff, a lot of people would probably prefer that you use the home's rules to play these adventures, right? Well, the problem with that is most of the stuff is not first or third level; it's more mid-level stuff. Mm-hmm. So last year we put out a kind of a beta of the Adventure RPG, which is our home's rules extrapolated to 10th level. Just so if you wanted to, you can use them to play. You don't have to. You can use any of the classic D&D line, the BX, BECMI, without missing a beat. With these, the stat blocks are designed for all that. First edition, you'd have to make some really minor changes, like the experience values are going to be wrong for 1E, but that'd be about it. So anyway, we did the adventure beta test last year. This year we have the full version. Will also be released at the convention. And it's actually, we're not printing a ton of them because we're just kind of doing it to have fun with it. Honestly, it's kind of a fun project, but we're releasing it in a box. So that'll be kind of cool. We're excited to bring that out on NTX too. And that'll be an NTX exclusive. We're not selling that anywhere else. We'll do it online for the weekend, whatever. And that's going to be the end of that. Then they're going to go to drive-through. And if you want to download it, you can download it on drive-through. Or you can purchase a print version through drive-through. We're not going to carry them after that.
So here's something to remember. If you enjoy Pacesetter stuff, enjoy Bill's stuff, they are really serious about putting out 100 copies and not putting out anymore. Now, sometimes you'll repackage it and reprint it later.
Sure.
But there's always a differentiation. Okay, this is the 3rd print, this is the 4th print, this is the 5th print, et cetera, et cetera.
And leave that up, Eric. I want to answer that.
If you want something of theirs, buy it when you get the chance. Because
when we do our limited prints, we do it's a legit limited edition print. So we try to stick with that. And it's just kind of a throwback to the good old days. We have fun with it. So the question is, how's Endless Encounters Wilderness? When Endless Encounters Wilderness is awesome. It is going to the printer, I believe, in the next 2 weeks. We really wanted to have it done and out before North Texas, but it's a massive project. But it's right on schedule. I think the Kickstarter was scheduled release for that was I want to say it's either May or June. So it is. The PDFs are going out probably the end of the month. And the fulfillment will be in early June for Endless Encounters Wilderness League. It's done, which is nice. It's been one heck of a project, but it's been fun.
I have this.
We've got the dungeon one. Yeah,
I always have it close because right now I'm running Greg Gillespie's World Deep, which doesn't really describe. It gives you very basic descriptions of rooms. He wrote it very old school style, and I will roll on this tons to roll up treasures and items and monsters. I use this every time I run a dungeon now. It's invaluable. It is excellent.
It's our best-selling book we've ever produced. It's
a great idea. I thought
the Wilderness one's gonna be it's just as much fun. It's a little different of a format, but it's pretty close. Just because the Wilderness can't do like levels 1 through 10, but it's like broken up the 1 through 3, 4 to 6, and I think 7 to 10 or something like that. But same general concept. We're excited to get it out. It's been a lot of work.
I started using that because every time when I would make up treasure in my head, my brother and the other members of my group would finally say, "Why is every gem 100 gold pieces?" I said, "Because I'm lazy. I don't want to have to worry about it."
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I need to start rolling this stuff up. And so sure enough, I started rolling in here, and they enjoy the treasures much more now. So it's not a bunch of 50 gold piece and 100 gold piece gems. What kind of gem? I don't know. Gem. It's just a gem. It's a 100 gold piece gem.
Pick a color.
Well, we will have some of those at North Texas too. We don't have a lot because we're going into a new printing of it finally. We're making a kind of it'll be second edition Endless Encounters Dungeon. It'll be a little different.
Jan, I'm getting my hair cut tomorrow. Jan, calm down.
All right,
I'm getting it cut tomorrow.
All right. So Jan, I'm just going to show you real quick. I'm going to zoom in on myself for once.
Okay.
This hair, hold on.
Out of control, man.
It's not
Wow.
Okay.
You can have a rat tail there, yeah.
So I don't know. This may be my chance to do a ponytail.
It's his Revolutionary War haircut.
Last time I got it cut was for North Texas.
I think last time you got to cut the Alamo fell.
Or
I'll
hear me out.
If I get it cut, I will admit that. But
hear me out. Midnight auction. We can bid to cut Eric's hair on stage. You get to cut.
We raised a lot of money doing that with Tim Cass.
Who's going to cut my hair?
Whoever wins the bid. I don't know.
No.
Jim looks very excited now that I mentioned that. He may be high bidder there. We'll have fair shares there.
We sold the right to cut off Tim Cass' ponytail at GaryCon like 10 years ago, and we got a lot of money. That went very, very well.
Think about the kids, Eric. Think about the kids.
They
won't be getting any of the money. No kids will get any money, but just think about.
I was about to say, what kids?
No kids. Just think about the kids, though.
That's insane.
You can give Eric a mohawk. I mean, think of the things you could do. You could give him a high rise. I mean, oh my God, there's so many things you could do. With that.
There's some things we don't need to picture.
Yeah.
It's the midnight auction, Jim. The whole thing you don't need to picture, and you know this. You just forget it. Every year you forget it, and communal memory just takes over, and then you just forget it till the next year. It's kind of like childbirth, If a woman remembered how much childbirth hurt, she'd never do it again.
I'm curious to know more about how you know so much about childbirth.
I've just heard about it. I've heard this.
I live vicariously through others.
I like to show up for random childbirths at the hospital,
It's like crashing weddings. You just crash it. Is the father here? I can be the father.
I'm the spotter. I'm the spotter. A little bit to the left, a little bit to the right.
No. Oh my God,
that's just insane.
So Bill, last year you had the play test of Gamma X. Is there anything Gamma X that you're going to be doing this year?
There is. So we can transition out of homes and into that. So. So we are going to be releasing the second part of that playtest at North Texas. I'm running it, I think, Saturday night. We will have print copies, and we're also going to have a kind of a pre-beta test Gamma X rule set at the convention too. We will not have a lot of them. I don't know if I'm just going to have them for the people playing in the event, or if I'll have enough to like sell a few of them at the booth, whatever. I'm not 100% sure yet. Just because
I don't know what the words are you're saying, but what I'm hearing is, Jim, I'll hold you one of everything.
Yeah, I will.
I'm good. You know,
they'll be coil bound in that, just because we're running up to the end, close date here. But yes, there'll be a Gamma X. Warren Dome 1, the first part will be there. We've sold some of those already, and then we haven't done a whole lot of marketing with it. And then again, the second part we're running at the convention. We'll have hard copies of that. We'll have a pre-beta of the rules. We're also going to, so I don't know, that's probably it for Gamma X at the convention. We'll have a bigger now. Gamma X, the Kickstarter, will be at the end, probably the end of summer.
Okay.
And the only reason I'm saying end of summer is because we're going to launch Dungeon X prior to that. So Dungeon X is the core system that Gamma X feeds off of. And that we are using Dungeon X to run the tournament this year, plus all of our other stuff at the con.
Now your tournament's quite ambitious this year, I've heard.
We are very ambitious. We have a lot going on. So we will probably also have some Dungeon X pre-betas there to take a look at too. I don't think we'll have any for sale. We'll just have them at the booth. People come take a look at and that kind of thing. We'll have some, if you're playing in the tournament, we will have player copies on the tables for them to reference stuff. I mean, it doesn't matter. Dungeon X, if you can play any old school version of D&D, you can play this. It just has some 5e mechanics into it, or modern mechanics. Ascending armor class, advantage, disadvantage, checks instead of saving throws, simplified movement. There's no skills, no feats, none of that stuff is in Dungeon X. That's not in there. No,
you die in Dungeon X, or do you
die? There's no long rest. No long rest.
No short rest. No long short rest. No 5 saving throws if I go below 0.
No, nothing like that. No. And down 18 million character classes. So Dungeon X is about adventuring, and the players buying in say, hey, we're going to adventure forward instead of player character forward. And our brief pitch for Dungeon X, and I'll come on here and talk about it in another couple months, I'm sure. But the basic pitch behind Dungeon X is remember when TSR used to run 2 different versions of D&D at the same time? They ran AD&D and they ran their D&D line at the same time, right? Dungeon X is our idea of what that other tier instead of 5e is. So we'll call it Basic Dungeons and Dragons 4 5e, but it's really not 5e. But that's kind of how we're gearing the game. It does use some modern mechanics, a lot of old school feel, but it's
this sounds very shadow darky in terms of.
It's not very okay. So it's not.
Well, I'm just saying the
dark is
just a philosophy because Kelsey she's steeped in old school. She grew up learning gaming from James Mishler and Gary and all them, and so that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying philosophy-wise, not it's the same.
Philosophy-wise, you're 100%. So Shadow Dark is 5e ultra light. I mean, there's no escaping that, and with a complete old school feel to it, which is awesome. Dungeon X is not 5e ultralight. Its chassis is classic D&D rules, just updated with modern mechanics. So we built it from old school up, old school rules up instead of 5e down. You kind of follow me here, and it's definitely a more broad base. It's more campaign friendly. It's kind of like basically if you were playing AD&D 1E back in the day, you're going to have your 3 rule books, basically a Monster Manual Player's Guide, DM's Guide. You're going to have all that. But it's adventure forward. It's kind of the big difference is that adventures are the key. The player characters are just there to go through the adventure.
Very old school philosophy.
Right. And there's nothing wrong. If you want to play that way, we're not making any judgment on people how you want to play. I don't care how you play D&D. We're just presenting a game where we're bringing, I think, the adventure and everyone collating into the adventure is more important than how your character collates into the adventure. If you follow me with that. Your character is a tool, not
no, I've seen many people at con games whose characters It's not just the characters that are tools.
Yeah,
I understand. And again, we're not making any judgment on it. Is planning to produce 5e and BX products. So we're going to probably migrate completely into Dungeon X. The one thing I will say with Dungeon X is you can anything we produce for Dungeon X, you can play with any classic D&D rule set and not miss a single beat. The stat blocks for the monsters, there's just going to be more information in there that you'll need for basic, but it's all the same. The movement base is the same. The hit charts are the same. We're using ascending, but everyone pretty much uses that anyway at this point. Does Dungeon X use proficiency bonus? No, not really. Not the way it is in 5e. We're really excited about it. The best way to learn about it is, and I know the tournament's full, but we'll probably try and add a pickup game here too. Ben's running games using Dungeon X at NTX, and we're playing the hell out of it there. So, and we're going to start, like I said, as soon as the convention's over, we're going to kind of ramp up on it. So.
Good deal. Well,
I was excited. But the tournament, which I really want to talk about, which is sold out, I believe. We have 6 rounds going this year with 4 different GMs. 4 different GMs, which is super exciting. We just added Ronan Wong as one of our GMs. He's a special guest at the con. So he's going to be running one of the rounds of the tournament, which we're really excited about, and he's super excited about.
Yeah, and you've met. I haven't met Ronan yet. I take it back. I have met him at cons, but we haven't had a long talk. We've talked online quite a bit. Super nice guy. He's an actor, but he's a gamer, man. He's a gamer. He's a gamer.
He's a collector. Gary said the tournament sold out, but I will tell you, if you're listening and you're going to be at the convention and you didn't get in on the pre-registration, show up at the boardroom 10 minutes before it starts, 5 minutes before it starts. Just make sure it's a convention. People have a habit of not showing up from time to time.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. We
the game, the better your chances.
We usually get about 50 no-shows is the typical number.
Yeah. We can't take extra players. We can only take, I think there's 6 per round. We can only take the 6 to keep it fair. We cannot take any golden ticket people. So it's one of the few events at NTX that a golden ticket's not allowed.
You do a stop sign to the golden ticket.
I know. Because every group has 6 player characters.
That makes sense.
I can't add a 7th. It would unbalance it for any of the other teams. So it's one of the only events I think that you can't use a golden ticket at.
Pretty much, yeah. You can use it on everything else.
Use it, I think, for everything else. So we're super excited, and we have I'm going to call it the largest twist in tournament history. In the tournament this year, I cannot tell you guys anything about it, unfortunately. Other than there'll be, I don't know that it's ever been done before. What we're about to do.
Please don't do the twist we did in year 4, where we had 4 games going on. We had do you remember this, Bill? We had a Boot Hill game, a Gamma World game.
Oh yes.
A D&D game, and I believe a Star Frontiers game. And then an hour in, we had them all switch tables. And then an hour after that, they switched again. Then an hour after that, they switched again. And it sounded like it was going to be a good idea, but it wasn't a good iddia because
I think it's a good idea, but we're not moving tables or doing anything that crazy. Good. So you will hear about it. Either people are going to love it or they're going to hate it, and we'll only do it once.
We'll blame you. We'll blame you. Absolutely blame you if they hate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is my twisted idea, and we're going for it. But I do think people are going to get a kick out.
Does your twisted idea involve Speedos?
No,
that's a no. Also,
no. Well, your brother did show up in a Speedo to the tournament when I was running it at LongCon. I will say that. Yes, he rolled in. Yep, there's pictures.
I can't even. I'm speechless, which is hard for me.
Everyone around the table seemed to enjoy it, so all right, it was all good.
Well, they did. Okay, well, he can do that at LongCon.
People wanted to pose with your brother in the Speedo, so there it was.
Let Eddie and those guys know that they can keep him now. So
it might have helped that we were passing Applejack around like for 2 hours prior to him coming in, but
you were halfway through the Applejack bottle.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah. So we're super excited about the tournament this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're doing the same thing we did last year. There'll be big giant maps. and that kind of thing. So that will also be available as usual for sale at the convention. The tournament will be.
Yes, Fugly, we will allow uranium tickets. Now, uranium tickets are they're $5,000 a piece, and I will, for that much money, I will kick someone out of the game physically. I will actually have them escorted out of the con.
Well, you give them like $100, and you're still
well, yeah, I'll cut them. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll cut them in. I'll buy them lunch. I'll buy them lunch, give them about $500, and Gary and I will put the rest at the con. So uranium tickets are allowed, $5,000.
So I think that's enough Pacesetter for the night, because I'm sure I'm forgetting stuff, but it's already a lot. And like Mike said earlier, we've been very ambitious, but we like to treat this convention as far as works. So this is our home convention. I know we don't live in Texas, but this is our home convention. It's been that way for 17 years, and we wouldn't have it any other way. And we just really want the convention to be successful. Anything we can do to help that happen and keep that going with everybody else. So many great people
are on the edge. Every year we're on the edge. Gary and I spend way too much on hookers and blow, and we're always,
that's all right.
We're down to our last few pennies. And thank goodness the convention is successful.
Well, Gary's probably using some tonight because he's doing his final edit of the program.
Oh my!
Has to go to the printer tomorrow.
You guys have done our program last year, which is great. We thank you so much.
It's 84
very professional.
It's 84 pages this year, Mike.
God love Doug. Doug had his quirks, right? Doug was quirky.
Yep.
He was a quirky guy. So our first few programs were digests. And for some reason, he just got absolutely fascinated with the digest format for programs, which was great for our first 3 or 4 cons. The problem is when we start getting into 200 or 300 games, the typeface gets so small that you're not really sure what you're even reading because you have to condense it all down to digest form. And he resisted all efforts to make it bigger than digest form. And so some of the later digests, some of the last digests we did are virtually unreadable because they're so tiny.
This is not. So one of the reasons it's 84 pages this year is I bumped the type size up. So from last year, because I thought last year's was probably a little small. So I bumped it up. And it's a beast. I mean, it's an 84 page, 8.5 by 11 book. And there's damn near 400 events in it, and then there's the map of the convention center, all that good stuff. So it's a lot of fun putting it together. I will put this out there right now. I did not edit one single event. I don't, and the reason is I don't have time to do that because by the time Gary closes event registration and event submission and all the rest of that, and then I get all the stuff downloaded from Tabletop was literally about a week ago. So I don't have a lot of time to put this book together. And that's not a complaint, by the way, at all. I'm just saying I can't edit 84 pages of people's events with 400 individual events with people with bad grammar. I'd be there forever.
By the way, did you hear that, Eric and Jim? This isn't a complaint. Yet here I'm going to detail why this is bullshit. This is what I heard. So,
well, it's not. But unfortunately,
the guy who prints the program probably is entitled to make the complaint.
Yeah,
I guess
that's going to throw that out there.
Okay. So we look. It's not. Nothing's ever perfect in print. It ever is. But I look. If I see something glaring, obviously I try to catch it. But mostly, the important stuff I hope is all correct. And that's the title, what it is, when it is. And this year, by the way, it's in day sequence. So it's Wednesday games, Thursday games, Friday games.
I think that's good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, Gary asked me to make that change this year, and I said, we'll give it a shot.
Because we couldn't figure it out.
I think the Midnight Auction should have a spell check award for the GM who turned in the worst error-ridden description.
It's a good idea. I like it, Jim. I like this idea. I like it. But that would require me to read all 407 entries. And I have time either.
I'm pretty sure the worst case scenarios are going to be brought to you.
Oh, boy.
Right? It's going to be like,
Okay. I'm game. If you read the program and you're at the con and you see something that says, oh my God, bring it to my attention.
I didn't write it. I know somebody on here asked. I'm sorry. I'm just going to kind of go through. They were asking something about if Dungeon X, previous versions. So yeah, this is basically our third version of it. So we did publish a few older versions, and basically we brought manuals to the conventions and had them on the tables. We never really. I think we might have sold a few beta test copies, but even that version is different from this version. So the newest version, which is essentially going to be our final one here. Again, we should have something up for Texas, and we're going to put up probably free downloads on our website, like a no art beta test. Here, take a look at it and see what you think, kind of thing, in June. So hopefully that answers that question.
By the way, so you guys are really, like I said, you and Ben, you guys are part of the DNA at the con at this point. I mean, Ben grew up here pretty much, and you've been here ever since the beginning. I remember the last time I tried to find the picture, couldn't find it, but I remember you, me, Dr. Joe, Dennis Astaire playing the very first Swords of Wizardry convention game. And we were just like, this is a really cool game. And I mean, run by Matt Finch. I mean, I have a picture of that. It's amazing to still look at that picture. So yeah, we've been doing this for a long time. So it's great to have you part of it, man. It really is.
I'm gonna send Eric the picture because
you still have. Oh, that's right. You sent it to me after the last time we talked because I took like 18 minutes to try to find it, and you guys were.
I know exactly.
Jim was like, yeah, "Come on, let's go. Dead air
somewhere."
No. Eric was looking at it. Not
it's in the program, Mike. Actually.
Oh,
awesome!
Awesome.
The picture's in the program.
The funny thing is, there was one guy in that game that to this day I don't know who he was, but everybody else in there I know and still know. But there's one dude that sat in the corner that was weird. He was kind of weird anyway.
He's not in the picture. He's not. I have two pictures.
Yeah, he's not in either pictures. I just remember him.
Not either one.
He was the kind of guy that walked up and touched things and pulled levers. So we were like, cool.
Yeah.
You always want that guy, and you don't want it to be you. You want it to be the guy in the corner. I'm going to push this button over here, and Matt Finch is gleefully rubbing his hands, and we all step back 5 feet. So he was that guy. But God, I don't know who he was. I think that's the only North Texas he ever went to. But yeah, it was a great group, man. It was and we had a great time. Matt was a great GM.
There's a bunch of pictures from the 2009, the first NTX.
Wow.
And they're pictures that I took. So except
cool.
that one, somebody else took that picture. But they're the pictures I have from 2009. A bunch of them are in the program. So awesome. I think there's only one or two non-2009 pictures in the entire thing. But next year I might switch it up.
There it is. Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Look how young everybody is.
Look how young. I know. Isn't that crazy?
No kidding. Good Lord. Yeah, Dennis looks young. My goodness.
Yeah.
Well, Dennis turned 85 this year, so Dennis would have been. Oh my gosh, he was a spring chicken.
He was.
Oh my gosh, Dennis is right there. Is the age we are now, Bill? Oh my God, not quite, but close.
Close.
He's 60s. He's in his late 60s, and we thought he was old back then. My goodness.
And then all the way in the back, that's Tim Kask or Frank Menser, all the way in the back.
Oh wow.
Dr. Joe's in the black shirt. I just saw him He's in my D&D group. Just saw him this weekend. Yeah. I got the curly hair and I have the blue I Love a Clavdra t-shirt that I made.
Yeah.
And you've got that first year shirt that Bill, I swear, I think you still fit in that thing.
I still fit in my first year shirt.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then
that's the only one.
And then the guy all the way to the right that we don't have a picture of, that's I think the weirdo that was pushing all the buttons and pulling all the levers. So
right. No, I'm guessing Matt Finch took the picture because he
must have, yeah. And we ran that. That's a closet. That's actually a closet.
Yeah.
So we had a La Quinta. We had the room there. You could fit, 5 or 6 tables. And the closet was big enough to stick a table in. So we thought, why not have more games? We'll just have them in the closet because we don't care. We're gamers. I mean, gamers game anywhere, right? And so that game was actually in a closet. And there was no room. By the way, I don't know how Matt got in back of that table and back and forth because there was no room to slide in and out.
Wasn't that the closet that held all the tables?
It was yes. Once you pulled all the tables out, the closet was empty. We're like, why waste the space? We'll run a game in the closet. And I think that's standing up. Is that David Ray? I can't tell in the white shirt behind me. I don't know who that is. I'd have to look close at that.
It's Ty Beard talking to Frank.
I don't know. I didn't even know Ty Beard back then. I don't know who that is.
I'm not sure who that is.
Oh, you know what? I think that's Jason Zavoda.
Oh, it is Jason.
Oh, wow.
Well, is that Alan? Is that Alan in back of me? Alan Growe?
Yeah, it is. That's Alan.
Oh my God. Yeah, that is. That's Alan Growe, looking young and
Yeah.
We all look young and vibrant. My goodness.
I know.
Boy, look how tore up D&D has made us. 17 years of Dungeons & Dragons have just tore us up. God.
Yes, it's done a job for sure.
Well, we've had a blast. So there's so Mike had brown hair. Yeah, that's before I had kids and grandkids.
But anyway, yeah. So there's pictures in the program people want to look through and kind of see. And there's some fun ones of like, stuff that Doug had on shelves, like crazy shit, like like 5 copies of Inverness and shit like that. And stuff. It was crazy. I think he had a picnic at his house. We were all in his backyard.
Barbecue. Yeah, we catered we rented a bus, and the bus drove us all to Doug's house, and then we had a barbecue dinner there in his backyard. We only had 55 people that year. I mean, it was crazy. So we all jumped at us, and
it was even more crazy because when we finished the dinner, he took us to Reaper.
Well, that was the next day. That was actually Monday.
Oh, was it
Monday
the next
morning.
day? So
I'm sorry, Sunday morning. That was actually Sunday morning. Sunday morning, the bus came back, and we did a tour of Reaper Miniatures.
And, yep. That was a lot of fun.
And by the way, I always forget this. It was all free. We didn't charge for tickets that year.
No,
yeah, we just told everybody we wanted to just try it out and come, and everybody come and have a great time. And it was probably the best advertisement ever, because then everybody's like, wow, this little con's awesome. Now of course we started charging after that, but no, we didn't charge anything the first year, which is counterintuitive, but that's just the way we run our con.
So anyway, so that's that. Yeah. So the program's in Gary's hands now, and he'll get it back to me, and I'll get off to the printer tomorrow morning, and then directly drop ship to you guys. So
nice.
That's that.
Well, the last few programs looked great. So thanks for.
I appreciate that. We're trying to get better every year, and Gary was, he worked hard to get even to me earlier this year than in previous years. So it's just hard, just the way the timing works. Like I said, it's not, again, he really wants to get everyone's games in, and no one wants to point a finger at various special guests who take forever to get their games in, because believe me, he's not waiting on Joe Schmo. So that's usually the hang up.
Well, they're special. You just don't know why they're special until you have to work with them.
Well, a few more things. Well, I want to go back to some stuff we talked about earlier, so we can just talk about some stuff. You were talking about the Holmes dungeon, about how, this is what he used in Maze Apparel. Now, not very people know, if you have a chance to get Maze's Apparel, it's Maze Apparel, Maze's Apparel.
It's Maze of Peril. And
My Holmes. Now there's an older out of print version, but there's also a newer Black Blade version, which I think is out of print also.
That one's out of print too, and that one has extra stuff in it. I think they pulled some stuff out of Dragon Magazine.
They did. But I'll tell you what's great about it. You read them, and these are stories about actual D&D campaigns as they're happening. So it's basically, they would have a game, and he just wrote that up as a story. And you can, when you read the story, you can practically see where the dice are being rolled. And that's a 20, and then that's a 1, and that's a critical miss, because that's what he did. He would take a session and he would write it up. So it's very evocative of how games were run, because he'll talk about, they went to town, hired a bunch of hirelings, then they go to this island, they investigate it, and half of the hirelings die, and you don't know anything about them except for their name. It says, this is Herodes, and this is Johnson or whatever, and then they're dead 2 pages later, and then they'll build up a guy. Oh, this one guy's an archer, he's great. Then he'll die 5 pages later. You're like, what the hell is going on? But that's what OD&D was like. It was just, you had all these characters, you didn't know who was coming home after the battle. There was no heroes that were supposed to live. Everybody went there. And so if you have a chance, get Maze's Apparel, because it's really, I don't think it's that expensive. I think you can still find it.
It's super cheap. You can, I mean, I'll look right now. I'm 90%.
If you want to see how original OD&D games were run, that to me is one of the best ever books that will demonstrate that, because that's all it is J. Eric Holmes's campaigns scribed to
it's exactly what it is. And like I said, it's just a great resource, because I got the maps for the Maze Apparel dungeon with the notes on it from Chris. That was our first project. We called it Things Better Left Alone, and that title comes from the very last line in the Holmes sample dungeon. That's what it ends with. Some things are better left alone. So that's where I stole the title for the dungeon from. But he sent us the maps, and then I looked at the maps and kind of saw the notes. I'm like, oh, there's a purple worm in here, and then there's this in here, and it kind of like a little fog started triggering in my head. And I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't that in the book he wrote? And I hadn't read it in forever. So I picked up and flipped through it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the Maze of Peril dungeon, actually.
Mm-hmm. I read it every few years because it's just a nice, fun read. I mean, it's not great literature by any means, but it's real. Like I said, it's you can tell where the dice are being rolled. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it used to be able to get it on Amazon. It's not there now. It's there, but you can't buy it. It's unavailable. But you could probably get it off eBay. It is just called Maze of Peril. And it's a fascinating read, like Mike says. It's like reading a D&D adventure.
Very much so.
Which is awesome. And like I said, if you read it and then take a look at the Things Better Left Alone adventure that we did, you're gonna see all the similarities, hopefully brought to life in that adventure. And we had the one thing I can see about doing the home stuff is like, look, for a kid of the 70s who learned how to play D&D on the John Holmes set, this isn't a bucket list thing. This is like one of the only, top tier things as a adventure designer or gamer that I think I could ever do, would be able to get this material be trusted by the Holmes estate to do this, and be able to touch all the things that he did. I mean, I can't tell you how humbled I am by this and how appreciative I am by this and how much flat out fun it is to do this. Because, when I'm doing the Holmes adventure stuff, I'm going to tell you right now, this isn't like some deep episodic quest stuff. This is sandbox, hex crawly adventure stuff. And, you get to see all the different things he does, and just, let that kind of run with your imagination and build them up and build a publishable adventure out of it. And that's the one thing I do want to kind of mention, by the way. We have had people say, hey, this is really cool, whatever, or I really didn't like this because it's not like the Holmes adventure from the Blue Book. And I'm like, well, I know it's not. We can't do that. That's never gonna. I can never recreate that. Right? That's the experience we all had 40 years ago. 2, John Eric Holmes wrote that. I didn't write that. I don't have any publishable material from him. I have maps with a couple notes in various places, and that's really all we have. We don't have stacks of manuscripts. So, what we have to do is we have to put something together that is, dedicated to Holmes, keeping as many of his ideas as we can in there, and highlighting the stuff and not taking anything away. But we have to add a lot because we're still selling a product to people, right? And when you buy a published adventure, there are expectations that 99% of people have. What's in that published adventure? They usually want read aloud boxes. They want descriptions of what's going on in the encounter. They want fully statted out stat blocks. And if you're buying from Pacesetter, they always expect that because that's what we do. So, people who buy our stuff all the time, I'm not going to produce something that we don't always produce, right? So it's kind of what the expectation is. So we do have to do that. And, in some cases, there's modern things that creep in there. I mean, in our stack block, we have a THACO part in there, and then we have an attack bonus thing there. So if you're using ascending or descending, you go either way. But we use THACO in the stack block because we want to give the GM the tool that he doesn't have to go to a rule book all the time, right? The stat block is there. Everything he needs to run that encounter is right there in the book. You don't have to go anywhere. People are like, well, THACO didn't exist in Holmes. Well, I know it didn't, but that doesn't mean it should make the product easier to use, right? So, and if you don't like it, don't use it. Just go ahead and look at your chart and do your thing. It's not going to.
Yeah, there's too much in our hobby, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it's usually the old school grognard that if it isn't this way, it's shit. And I'm not even going to try it if it's not this way. And that's such a regressive attitude.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, I would rather give you more information and you not use it than not give you enough and feel like you have this book that doesn't have what you want in it. So, I just want to make sure we put that out there. There's a lot of Holmes in there, but there's a lot of Pacesetter and there's a lot of me in there. Ideas I bounced off Ben, things like that. But it's all based on his notes, his maps, and that kind of thing, in a large publishable, fully describe.
Well, it's like when you guys did Palace of the Vampire Queen. I mean, if you have the original Palace of the Vampire Queen, it is sparse. It is sparse. There's just a lot of room descriptions of like 3 vampires, and that's it.
That is the room description.
And then there's a lot of empty.
There's a monster and a treasure, and that's it.
That's and then there's whole levels that are almost empty, like nothing.
Correct.
And so that sounds like some Kickstarters I've known.
And I appreciate you bringing that up. So next year will be really big with that because we're getting onto the 50th anniversary of Vampire Queen. And if everyone out there doesn't know, we own the IP for with every Warrior stuff and Vampire Queen and all that. So or we have the rights, I should say.
Well, Bill, we own the rights to reprint exactly what we printed.
You do,
but that's all we can do. We may do a reprint too if you guys do. We may do a
we do all the conversion stuff for it. But
yeah, we haven't done any conversions.
I think that's why Chris came to us eventually, because he saw that when we started doing the Vampire Queen, the We Warrior stuff, we were really I think we were I don't know the word I'm looking for. Careful not to mess it up, right? I mean, we wanted to honor the IP.
I think you were very respectful.
Yes,
I think you didn't go after fast cash.
I was cleaning the office. There's an original.
We never kickstarted it or anything like that. Yeah, we'll probably be doing something big coming up with the 50th anniversary. Because you know what? The one thing that the Wizards of the Coast debacle for 50th anniversary taught me was, Bill, don't fuck up Palace of the Vampire Queen 50th anniversary. It's the first D&D module ever printed. The Vampire Queen is on her throne and she needs to be treated that way. And we're going to work really hard to do that.
If you're commissioning a new cover painting with the smoking hot Vampire Queen, I want a poster. I'm just going to throw that out right now.
The one that so Matt Costanzo did I think the one you're referring to is one we did, right? Smoking hot Vampire Queen. He killed that illustration, and I'm like, man, me and Ben were talking about it for the 50, because we're already working on the thing. And we're like, do we do a new cover? And I
think you have him revisit it, right? Like I think you say, right?
Yeah.
You took what we thought was going to be a 4 and turned her into an 8. We need you to take her to 15.
We're probably going to take her up. Yes. I think we are. But that illustration is going to probably appear like somewhere in there. I mean, when we do this thing, this is going to be like a coffee table adventure book where it'll be 8.5 by 11, but we're going to do some fun stuff like interior color illustrations of different things that have been around for the 50 years. We'll do some commemorative stuff in there. But I don't know. It's really exciting to do that. And I think that's why Chris came to us, because he saw how we treated We Warriors and Vampire Queen, and it's been a greatest thing ever.
Respected the property. I think I think a lot of times when we see the fast cash grab, we all know it's the fast cash grab.
Sure.
And I don't think anybody has that impression with what you've done with Vampire Queen. If anything, I would say I think you've been remarkably restrained. That you could have done a lot more, and not necessarily in the best of ways, and that's not what you've done.
No, we've held off, and like I said, at this point we've held off for a couple of years just because we've been kind of doing some play tests at conventions, and in the turn we ran it as a couple of the levels of tournaments to test some things out in it, and it's all in planning for the year 50, which is I believe.
Yeah, and I always bring this up too because
next year.
All ego aside, I mean, the efforts of Doug and then Bill to keep this alive. You have to understand where We Warriors was before North Texas, and it was nowhere.
It was nowhere
because it was not being reprinted. The only printings were the early 70s printings, and then Doug approached, just called Pete out of the blue and said, "Hey, we'd love to reprint this." And Pete's like, "Why?" And we're like, "Because D&D's still a thing, man." And so we got the rights to reprint when we did the first 3. And then Bill saw an opportunity there because all we did was reprint the Misty Isles, Dwarven Glory, and Palace Vampire Queen. We didn't add anything. And then Bill was like, little gears turning his head, was like, wait a second, we can modernize these and and do bring it to shape.
Yeah,
So when you talk
well,
to Peter,
you guys had Pete at the convention, so I sat down with him. I think it was probably Saturday, and and all I wanted to do was assign the copies, the digest copies that you guys are selling. I'm like, can you sign this for me? We were sitting down talking, and we were just talking about some old times kind of thing with my background, whatever. Obviously, nothing to the scale of his, but. And we just got to talking about all of it. And I said, well, what are you thinking? What are you going to, has this got you going? Are you going to, just bring all this back? Because there's people who love this stuff. And he said, and he basically said, no, he goes, I wanted to come to this convention to see what things are still like, but I'm going to go back to my world. And
he's a college professor, correct?
Yes. And and his wife was completely out. His wife we say Pete did all this. His wife did just as much as he did.
His wife Judy was there,
and she wanted nothing to do with it. And he just said, "No, I'm good. I had my time in the sun, and I'm moving on." And I'm like, "Well, what can we do to bring this forward? Because I'd love to do something with this. Are you interested in doing something with the property? Blah blah blah." And he said, "You could have it." And I'm like, whoa. Slow down a minute. We're not going to just do that. So we said, at that point we said, okay, let's communicate, after the convention more about this and that kind of thing. Let me wrap my head around all this, and we'll throw some ideas out. And over the next couple of months, that's just kind of really where it went. We did some stuff for him, but he just basically, this was right place, right time. I'm not going to lie. And he just said, have all the IP, and you're doing a good thing with it. And the only thing I pledged is, I said, I part of the thing, and he didn't require this. He said he really liked how it was helping a convention to help people game. And I said, the pledge we're going to make is every time we do anything with this, we're going to donate money to whatever convention that we're releasing this at, or whatever charity or whatever. And he said, no, do the convention thing, and that's all. That would be great. So we wrote something up basically to that effect. So. Because when we did our couple earlier printings with Vampire, when we donated back to Doug and the convention and that stuff like that.
Yep.
So
yeah, this is all came out. It was just like I said, it went from absolutely obscure that people just hear about it, but nobody can actually ever read it. Too bad, if you don't have a copy, you're never going to read it. To now, it's in common parlance. People talk about, oh yeah, Palace Vampire Queen and Dwarven Glory and Misty Isles. There's many reprints out there. You can find it if you want to find it and run it. You can.
So Mark John is asking how does Pacesetter do it? So what happened was, after a while, I guess a few years later, Pressy Media approached Peter Karsten and actually purchased the rights to the We Warrior stuff from him. I don't know what I say purchased. I don't know what the sequence was. I would assume it was something similar to what we did, but we have the rights from conveyed prior to that from Peter Karsten We Warriors to reproduce everything We Warriors. I have talked to Pressy Media about this, by the way. We really don't have a ton of interest in. We're never going to reproduce these books as they were originally produced. We will, obviously, the content, and then revising it for modern game systems or modern D&D.
I think the only reason we'd ever reprint.
He has no interest in doing any of that. So that's, I've talked to him about that, and that's where we're at with them. And I have talked to him. It's been a while, but we've talked.
Yeah. This is not a what do you call it? A combative situation. This is
not at the least.
This is all because
and again, we did this years before.
Peter gave the rights. Trevor walked along and shook his hand and said that, "Hey, you want to print this?" He was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. You can have the rights."
Right. Because to be clear, we did not purchase the We Warriors company. We were granted rights from in perpetuity, by the way. So I made sure the language was correct.
We have the same deal with just the original 3 reprinted, that we can reprint them in the same form, which
correct.
Maybe we'll do someday. Probably we reprinted a full size copy for the 10th anniversary. We did 100 copies of that, but I don't see anything on the horizon. Like I said, the 50th anniversary, maybe Gary and I'll do something for that and reprint the original.
So Pressy Media is basically reprinting the exact copies, usually I think mostly in PDF. I don't think they do some physical stuff, and that's what they're doing. That's what they decided to do with it. we're doing different things with it. So that's why we're not stepping on each other's toes or anything like that.
No, there's
yes,
enough
you do my
around here.
little spot SPI collection. It's not all up yet, but
Well, and here's what's cool about it is that this is all just geared towards, and this is one of my big pet peeves of the industry, and I have worked towards this for years, is all this stuff needs to be out there, and it needs to be visible by not just the greatest collectors of the hobby. I mean, I love John Peterson, I love Bill Meinhardt, but that stuff that they hoard away like a dragon's hoard needs to be out there. It's not their fault. It's just because nobody has the rights to do a lot of that stuff. But this is all part of our history, and not just these certain people should be able to look at it. If I want to see the strategic previews, I should be able to, they should be in a form somewhere where I could PDF and look at strategic preview. For those who don't know, that was the precursor to strategic review. They're super rare, and they have a lot of inside information about what was going on at TSR at the time, and they're just stupid rare. They're just stupid rare. But that's the kind of stuff I would like to see people be able to read. There's a lot of third-party stuff. We were very lucky to talk to the guy who did Tombs of Vala, and he had 100 copies in his basement that he sold to Doug, and we came out with them, and the price on eBay immediately dropped from like $500 a piece to like $50 because we were selling them for $50. But we just wanted we wanted them out there. We want people to be able to see this stuff and use it, and that's the great thing. Now the We Warrior stuff, like I said, it's in common parlance now. People know what Palace of the Vampire Queen is.
So
they understand what it is.
And that's an interesting thing. So the differences between the Vala stuff and what the reprints do, that was a load of new old stock that showed up that saturated the market a little bit. Because believe me, when we first redid our reprints of Vampire Queen and Dwarven Glory and Misty Isles, we got some flack. People are like, "Oh my God, you're going to devalue the collection.
You're destroying my collection." No.
And the exact opposite has happened, right? The price has gone up on all of that stuff.
Bill, we've had this argument at the ACM for 25 years, haven't we? How you can't reprint the white box PDF because then my white box collection will be worth nothing, and they've just gone
because there's a huge difference between reprinting something and finding new old stock to saturate the market. It's two totally different things.
Well, we tried to get the rights.
If anything, it drives it up.
We couldn't get the rights to Vala.
And that's fine.
Clint wanted way too much for them. Just to reprint it. We're like, nah, we're good.
No. But I don't know. If anything, I think it draws more attention to this old stuff and people get to see it.
Yes, and it should be. Look, it drives me crazy that you can't get the companions modules. They're some of the best, not just the best stuff in the 80s. They're some of the best RPG adventures ever published.
Amazing.
And they're just impossible to find. And unfortunately, the two gentlemen had the rights. I forget their names. Just never did anything with it. They've never passed on supposedly somebody has the rights to it, but that person has never reprinted them. It's a mess. And that stuff should be out there because people this is cool stuff. This is stuff that people need to read. Some of the old, oh gosh, who was the author that wrote, he was a gamer and became an author. City of, oh shoot, I remember it. You guys talking, I remember.
Well, I noticed it earlier and I forgot. So I did not do this on purpose with Jim, but if you look behind Jim's head, at the two digests he's got up on the wall right there. So we did not plan this, but that's the exact two that I also have.
Wow.
Boot Hill and Warrior Mars sitting up on my
I think they're two.
McKemia Press. I'm sorry, McKemia Press. McKemia Press put out some absolutely excellent supplements that take place in the world of McKemia, which was written by the author. I can't remember his name once again. And you can't get those anywhere. Now, those PDFs were available for a while, which is awesome. So the PDFs are out there for I think Black Tower and the City Book and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But all that stuff, it just drives me crazy that it's just all there. And, it's just not being reprinted. And it was rare to begin with. I mean, a lot of that stuff I never even saw till we got the internet in the 90s. And that's when I first saw that stuff. People were selling it because we just didn't have it around here. We were in Texas. Nobody's shipping RPG stuff to Texas, especially rare stuff. We just didn't get that stuff.
Right.
And like I said, I'm a big proponent of And Bill, I've been talking about this in KM for 25 years. It does not lower the value. It does not lower the value of the originals, and it makes it available for people. It actually might help it because as music companies found out, the more people that listen to your music actually buy your music, which is why they stopped prosecuting grandmas and teenage girls who are pirating music. The same with this stuff. If there's more of it out there, more people become aware of it. There's more people aware now of We Warriors and Pacesetter Vampire Queen than there were 20 years ago, just because it's actually out there now. You can actually find it, or find the reprints at least. Well,
and I think the hobby as a whole has to start figuring out how do you thread that needle, because there is so much of that early material that is so rare and so scant that you just can't find it short of illicit PDFs. Like, really and truly, yes, the reprints are amazing, but there's just so much of this stuff that's beyond the price of normal means.
Jim, there was a person out. So there's an excellent fanzine from the UK called The Beholder. Excellent. It has adventures in it. It has articles. I want to say it lasts about 30 issues. Impossible to find. I have no shame in telling you that I downloaded a pirated PDF a few years ago because I'm just never going to find them. I'm just not going to find them. And I said, why should I, for something that's not being published and hasn't been published in 50 years, why am I denying myself to be able to read these? And I couldn't convince myself not to do it. I did it. And I was like, wow, these are really, really good. There really needs to be a PDF of this, a legal PDF for reprinting. This is good stuff. And it is a snapshot of the hobby. Thank God for Lee Gold. Thank God Lee Gold actually reprinted issues of Alarming Excursions, because it is a snapshot of the hobby, and we need that kind of history. That kind of history should exist.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah, come on, we're all in alignment on this. I have a copy of Warriors of Mars, but until I got one a couple of years ago, it was given to me as a gift. I had a PDF, and that was the only way I could afford it. Read it. Yeah. My first printing of Boot Hill is not complete. I'm missing the map on the inside, but the map sheet. But it's beautiful, and I've grown to really, really appreciate Boot Hill over the last 3 or 4 years, to a point where I just, it was a game that was always on the periphery of my radar until I could finally get a copy and play and have fun.
And Mark's game, John, Mark, you say something true, and there's something else you have to remember too, is the people, because he says how many print on demand, how easy print on demand works. It seems like a lot of money being left on the table. I don't know that necessarily a lot of money being left on the table, but I'll tell you what, the people who'd be interested in this are dying off, because I don't know if the younger generation is that interested in seeing Tombs of Vala. I mean, maybe they are, because they kind of want to look at old stuff. But the generation that is interested in it is dying off, and those people will be gone. And then nobody's going to be interested in shapeshifters and skinwalkers, or, some of those old publications that are, Cannonball Run or whatever that one module. They're not going to be there. And so then they're just going to disappear. Nobody's going to have them, and nobody's going to care. There's some really, really good third-party stuff out there that was published in the 80s. They had to be very careful to dodge, the TSR lawyers and make it so it wasn't D&D, but it's pretty much generic D&D. And that's why it's so obscure. It's just so obscure.
Let's remember, there's also some really, really, really bad third-party stuff.
There is.
Oh my God.
It's so bad. What was the one you published, Bill? What was the one you published?
Tales of the Ruby Dragon. The worst second edition module ever written by anyone on the planet.
It is god awful.
How do you really feel? I feel like you're holding back.
Oh God, no!
It's so bad. But you know what? It was so bad. It was good, right, Bill?
It was so bad. It was good.
It's good.
It was an Achaeum project. When I used to be there all the time, and now I'm too busy to be on anything. Somebody found the original author of it, and they brought him into the Achaeum, and it was this thread went all about, we should get this printed, blah, 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 and this would be so cool. And the guy was like, well, I don't want any part of it, doing that, I wouldn't know where to go.
I know how bad my work was. I don't want to see it.
So my dumbass volunteered. I'm like, well, I tell you what, send me the scans of it all. I'll put it all together. We'll come up with a royalty agreement and blah 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 blah. So we did this.
I can hear Bill's voice. I am a sucker for punishment.
I was a sucker for punishment. But, everybody wanted this thing.
You sold
right?
them all, though. They all sold.
I can help make this happen. So we, he did, and all that honestly worked out fine.
It sounds like a court testimony. He did, she did, we did.
He wanted a lot of money for it. The only that was kind of scary. He wanted a lot for it. So it was like, okay, well, let's try and get this to work, and we did. But the crazy thing is, like, part of the thing was it was a group project that I was doing. So part of the thing was everybody wanted him to sign it. So I got them all printed, and I shipped them to him for him to sign. He sits on them for like 3 fucking months. And every 3 or 4 weeks, I'm sending him an email. Hey, could you sign those and send those back, please? And because people weren't getting squirrely, but they were getting squirrely. Like, hey, where's my book? I'm like, I don't have them. I sent them to the guy. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, Bill's getting squirrely because he spent all that money to have it printed up. He's like,
yes.
Oh, shit.
And
oh, shit.
So he finally sends them all back. Well, so they were white and they were matte, and which was fine. But apparently, when he got them, he probably lived somewhere down south where it's 100 degrees with 90% humidity, 24/7 all summer. And I get these books back, and he did sign them. I started taking them all out. The ink had run on a bunch of them, like smudged on the front covers. On like we only did like 60 or 70. I don't remember what it was, a low number. And I'm like, oh my fucking God. What did I'm like, son of a bitch. And I sent a thing. I said, hey, I'm starting at the top. And whatever your order, whoever ordered first, get in the top one and the next one down. I am making no bounds what yours is going to look like when it gets.
Bill, there's there's a copy.
Nobody bitched. Not one person complained, but it was like, okay, this is a never again situation with one of these guys. Never heard from him again, by the way. So
there's 2 copies on eBay. They're both from Mike Carey's collection, and they want $250 for one and $350 for the other. I don't know why the $350.
I've seen him sell for like $150.
Come on.
Yeah, I've seen him sell for about $150, but that's a little high.
I feel like no good deed
really
goes
high.
unpunished, Bill.
No, that one wasn't. That was crazy.
But that's it's a part of D&D history that needs to be out there. Yes, there was some really terrible stuff in the 80s and 90s. Here it is, I mean, that stuff needs to be out there just as much as anything else. And like I said, that's one of the big things. I've had arguments about people that won't even say their names that are big in the hobby. Like, oh no, I wouldn't want a reprint of that because I've got 7 of them. I'm like, why do you have 7? Is there? I mean, why? Well, I've got 7 of those, and I don't want that out there because, are you waiting for the collapse of society? Then we're going to need 7 copies of Stones of the Celt, Oh, Stones of the Celt, you have 7
That's
copies.
what we're going to use for currency after the bombs drop.
Right.
Stones of the Celt. Yes, or what are those, Tombs of Baal or whatever.
Oh,
Not Native Robber Headquarters. Do you have a copy of Not Native Robber Headquarters? I do. I will trade it for 6 pallets of food and all the champagne you have, my good man. Oh,
but
anyway, that's a pet peeve of mine. It really is. Especially now, like somebody mentioned with print on demand, it's actually easier to do that, to get that stuff printed. Now you can scan it now. Scanning, They have scanning machines that are amazing now. You just put the item there and flip the page and it scans it. And, it also fixes the item while you're scanning it. I mean, you could have a lot of printings of some of this really hard to find stuff. If somebody, I think a lot of the problem too is the rights. People don't like you said, Bill. You never even heard from this guy again, right? He's just gone off the.
No, I'm just glad he sent them back to me, honestly, because I was starting to freak out. So
I had those little digests that were the Tabletop Warriors. I don't know if you remember those. That guy in Texas. That guy's disappeared too. But not only that, he had. The whole story is crazy. He had like 500 copies, and then 250 went to his partner, and they all disappeared. Then the other 250, something happened, and he only had 100, and then whatever. And then the last time I ever talked to him was probably almost 20 years ago. He lived in Houston, and a flood ruined all of them. All the ones he had, gone. So there's probably, I would say floating around, there's maybe 80 to 100, maybe.
Right.
But it's really good. It's well made. The artwork is excellent. The dungeons are classic OD&D dungeons, and it's just a really cool item. It's too bad that, and like I said, I've even looked for the guy now. I can't find him anymore. He was, and his name was Lane Renfro. Couldn't find him, but he doesn't have any more copies. Like, they're all gone. I was selling his copies for a while. Then one day I wrote him. He said, "Oh yeah, we had a flood, and they got water damage. They were in the garage. We threw them all out." And I'm like, "Ugh." And it's just that stuff is disappearing. But like I said, the rights. I mean, just to find somebody to reprint, or to find the people. And I told this story on one of the Facebook pages a couple weeks ago. We had got in touch with. There's a supplement called Shapeshifters and Skinwalkers. And it's got a werewolf head on there. And it's a very well known 80s supplement. It talks about lycanthropy and lycanthropy, or the lycanthropy. How about werewolves? It talks about werewolves and shape changers, but it was really hard to find. If you see it pop up on eBay, it'll be a few $100, $200-$300. And Doug and I had actually contacted them to see if they had any extra copies or would allow it to be reprinted. And the answer we got from the authors was that no, we had a Christian coming to Jesus moment 20 years ago, and we eschewed all those evil RPG things, and we will never give our permission to have that reprinted. So we want nothing to do with it. We don't want our names associated with it. And so I guess nobody will ever get a cheap copy of Shapeshifters and Skinwalkers because. So
I was sending Eric a message a little bit ago, so I left Facebook on my accident. But I need you guys' opinion here. I just got a friend request from Sandra Bullock private page.
Oh, that's legit.
Oh, yeah, that's
absolutely
100% legit, right?
Absolutely
yeah.
legit.
And that Nigerian prince is going to send you $1 million. Just send him 1,000.
Ask her about pencil dice.
Now,
by the way, John, I have Enemy Lines too. I have that game too. I
was watching some freaking old movie the other day, and she was in it. I've seen this movie before. I had no idea it was her. This last time I watched it, I'm like, wait, that's Sandra Bullock. She's barely.
She like 16 or something, or
something like that. Yeah, she looked barely.
Wow.
It looks like her, but it does. You know what I mean? It was one of those.
She still lives in Texas. She lived in Texas for a while. I think she still lives in Texas. I can't remember. But yeah, she had a ranch in Texas for a while. All these stars end up having ranches in Texas, and then they never go to their ranch in Texas. They just want, I guess it just sounds cool to have a ranch in Texas.
Too damn hot, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. I mean, they should know that it's Texas. So I'm looking to see if she still has a ranch in Texas. Because I'll call up tomorrow and ask if that's legit, Bill, for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I deleted it. So
I'll personally look into it.
Closed Facebook out. So yeah.
Well, it says she owns properties in Los Angeles, Austin, and New Orleans. So yes, she still has the Austin ranch or whatever.
She's another reason Austin stays weird.
Very true. Very true.
Mary says she lives there. So
I love it when I would see keep Austin weird, and I'm like, buddy, I think they're doing fine.
It says on her page she's had numerous stalking incidents. I wouldn't call me trying to get in touch with her stalking. So I don't know why they're talking about this. This isn't stalking. It's just me, seeing a lost soul like
being
myself.
super helpful, which will go over well with the police officers.
She just needs a friend, and I can see that.
So. Oh my God! Stop before this episode is entered as evidence. Local man arrested.
Actually, her stalking incidents are pretty horrific. Wow.
Eric and I both know what a perp walk is, and we don't want to see you doing a perp walk.
No, it's okay, man. I've done them. They're fun, but when you're the one walking somebody,
they're fun.
When you're walking the person, they're fun. They're not fun for the person.
I know there's one guy that broke into her house and she had to lock herself in the bathroom, and then he had a shootout with SWAT police. I'm not okay. I like Sandra Bullock, okay, but I'm not getting in a gunfight with SWAT police over her. Sorry, my wife would not approve of that. So
I'm glad to hear you have some shreds of standards.
When it comes to shootouts with SWAT, I am just I'm not going to do that.
I missed the fact that Bill sent this before, so I'll put this up now.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, there she is.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we will ultra hottie her even more, Jim. We'll do that just for you.
Yeah. You know, I have unfortunately started to get emails from, I think it's AAW that did Vault of the Drow. That's their big Kickstarter, and every convention they're at, they have a gigantic stack of it they're trying to sell. They're like on the second printing, and they just have a lot of them. But for somehow, some way, I got on their mailing list, and now, holy crap, the emails have started.
Oh no!
And, you know, our Kickstarter will be launching. You should go check out our pre-launch Kickstarter. Hey, our Kickstarters for sequel to Vault of the Drow is coming, and you should get. And I'm just like, delete. Like,
are they
you
doing
got one
that?
drum and you're beating the hell out of it, and I get that.
Are they
And
doing
don't
that?
get me wrong. The woman on the cover, the Drow on the cover, she's hot. She's smoking hot, right? But they reversed the image for one printing. They did changed some things around, and it's like, okay, get some new art. Like, you can bring her back, but just give me a new piece of art.
Are they doing that in conjunction with Wizards, or is it just something on their own?
Oh, it's all on their own.
Yeah.
They're a publisher from Washington State, I think,
Okay.
is where they're located. But and I understand why it seems economical to do the giant campaign book, and people back the giant campaign books and so on and so forth. But I don't know anybody that's bought one of these giant campaign books and run that campaign. Like, I genuinely haven't heard anybody in the last 5 years that got a Kickstarter of one of these giant campaign books that then ran it. You know, I always say our dirty secret in the RPG industry is that 95% of what we sell gets read and not played.
It's all aspirational, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's right, and that's fine and dandy. But I'd like to believe that there's I won't back every single large, gigantic campaign book that comes along, just because I'm counting down the number of minutes I have left to live, and I just don't have time to run it.
Well, let me give you something though, Jim. So explain this though, and I think this is different. I have a theory. So Greg Gillespie does these giant Mega Dungeons books, and I'm on a lot of Facebook pages, and a lot of people run those. Is that because it's more of a they're all sandboxy?
Yes, and I would call that the Grand Theft Auto syndrome, right? Because people, if you give me the difference between like the Pathfinder adventure paths and Vault of the Drow and some of these other large, you know, they're railroads. Like, hello, you're going in one direction and you're going to hit these stops along the way, and then the train's going to go off the bridge that got blown up, and boom. And sandbox RPG adventures, or sandbox I mentioned this about Tom Wam to somebody a few weeks ago, that one of the most interesting thing about Tom Wam games is that you don't have to play one particular way to win one of his games.
Absolutely.
That you can win playing in different ways. And once you sort of understand that, it makes the game a lot more interesting. The game Space Hulk, everybody always says that the Gene Stealers are overpowered and the Space Marines don't have a chance. But once you really understand the rules and understand time and so on and so forth, the game balances out. And I think one of the things we all talk about is Village of Hamlet, the T1. It's a sandbox. Like, it's a village. If you needed a village, you could reskin it and you could drop it into a campaign, or you could throw it down and people could spend some time in it, and it wouldn't be awful to run. Like, there's not a lot of evil in the Village of Hamlet to conquer and kill. You got to go to the moat house, but it's a great base for adventure.
There's a lot to do. There's a lot there. You stole my thunder, Joe. I agree. I think that's the difference. No, I'm just saying that's the difference between what the stuff that Greg does. And I've seen there's other things like Greg. There's other guys that do things like Greg where they have these giant hex crawls. And you're right, because you can pull any part of a hex crawl out, stick it in your campaign, and use it however. Whereas the stuff you're talking about, and like you said, a good example was the Pathfinder Venture Pass. It's much harder to do that. It's part of a long 5-book saga that you have to go through.
That's really right. And you have this and this and this, and that's the only way it's going to go. And so I ran Top Secret, and I've now been so mentally scarred by the Top Secret rules that I'm going to use Call of Cthulhu rules the next time I run my Top Secret game. But one of my favorite things about Top Secret that I don't think a lot of people understand is the original module that comes in the box set, Sprechen Sie Haltes, is this wonderful open sandbox for your idiotic players to blunder into this and that and the other thing. And Rob Conley's in the comments, and he's like, okay, so giant adventure paths are the problem. No, like again, right? The problem with the adventure path is it's not one sandbox presented. The problem with the adventure paths is you had to get all 5 or 6, but they were invariably A leads to B, B leads to C, C leads to D, D leads to E. Conclusion, and then the next series starts.
And Jim, you know what one of the most popular adventure paths was Kingmaker. And you know what Kingmaker was? It was a hex crawl. It was the only hex crawl they ever did, that Pathfinder ever did. And it was probably the most popular one they ever published, because you could there was all these different adventure locations in this giant area, and you were a person who had been given this area, and you had to conquer this, so you could basically, the king had given you this territory to clear out. It was a great concept and a great idea, and they only did it one time. They did Kingmaker, and it was great. But that's what it was. It was a freaking hex crawl / sandbox. And right. I don't know why they didn't do that more often, because it obviously was very popular.
Right. And so somebody corrected me on the name for the Top Secret module, but my God, like, it's a wonderful, like the table of rumors, and it tells you which ones are true and which ones aren't. I'm sorry, all of them are false except for the ones that are marked true. All these different little, this weird little town on the border of East and West Germany that is this hotbed for shenanigans and transactions and so on and so forth. I love that kind of stuff. That's why I loved Village of Hamlet. Like, Village of Hamlet was a peek inside what it should actually be like for your players to encounter a small village or be from a small village and roll with it and enjoy it. We always have these, I don't need 6 pages of backstory on your character's motivations and their place in the world view. But if you're going to take a party from 0 to level 1 to level 2 to level 3, and you want to start off with that kind of flavor, right? That when I would run a game, I would sit down with almost everybody and say, okay, I'd sit down on 1-to-1. Tell me what you want as a character. Like, what is it you want to be? What is it you're interested in doing? Like, what are your motivations? What kind of character do you want? And I'll go away and I'll come back and drop your character in your lap ready to go. And that lets you build like a microcosm of you're all the survivors of the village that got burned and raised by orcs. That your moms, your dads, your uncles, they stuffed you into cellars, they hid you in barns, blah, 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 blah. And your party's motivation is try to pull all the other villages together to help to bring down this orc mob, right? Like, get people invested, right? But don't say, okay, now you have to go to A, now you have to go to B, now you have to go to C, now you have to go to D. Like, give them this is the world that and you think the bad guys went that way. What do you want to do? Well, we're too weak to go after the bad guys, and we know which way they went, so let's go other places and see if we can get help, right? That just makes more sense, I think.
Somebody made a good point there about all the first levels, or first 1E top secret modules are great, and they are, because I started thinking about it. You have Rapid Strike. They're all, so the great thing about the early top secret modules was there was no set way to do it. They say, here's a location, right, go for it. There's the one where you have to parachute onto the captured ocean liner, and you can land anywhere. You roll randomly, you see where you land on the ship, and you just whatever you want to do. I don't know. You want to go stop the engine? You want to go?
And that was just after, I believe that came out just after Leon Klinghoffer was killed.
It did. We reviewed that on This Old Dungeon, that exact adventure last summer, and that was, you guys are talking about the exact same things that we talked about on the podcast. Was, the beauty of the thing is, it gives you the setup, but you can go anywhere you want with it. And like I said, once the players They parachute onto this cruise ship. They can do whatever the hell they want.
Yep.
There's no sequence they have to do things in, right? There's a couple of different missions they have to do, but they can get there any way they want.
And that's how most of the early top secret
most of the
modules
top
are.
secret modules are
They're
like
very
that.
much, here's your location, and you just you go do your goal. Now it changes as time went on. They became more, streamlined. Okay, you're going to go from, like you said, point A to point B to point C. But the early top secret modules were great sandboxes, man. They all were. Like I said, Rapid Strike's the same way. There's a location, and you got to go rescue somebody there, and there you go. Here's the location. Do you want to come out of the ocean and climb the wall? Do you want to go to the front door? I mean, you could do anything you wanted to do, and that's, I think, was the beauty of those early top secret modules, and that's why they were so good. And I don't think that's why we talk about them more than we probably talk about some of the later top secret modules were really good too. There was a Orient Express one that I thought was excellent. I did that with my players a few times. But yes, that's something that doesn't get, I mean, I still don't think it's done enough. Now, hex crawls have gotten much more popular. I mean, we're living in hex crawl, the golden age of hex crawls. I mean,
golden age of hex crawls.
Greg Christopher does them. I mean, you guys are doing them, Bill. I mean, everybody's doing hex crawls now because it's so modular. You can pull all those encounters. If nothing else, if you buy a book of a giant hex crawl, you're getting 100 encounters that you can use however you want to, and that's a value. That's definite value.
It's Lady in Distress is the cruise ship one. And by the way, if you ever need a cruise ship diagram and description, it's a great product just to get for that all on its own. They just did a really nice job with it. I mean, it's not a giant cruise ship like we think of today, but it's a great map and it's got great descriptions. It's pretty cool. And a lot of those early TSR modules are like that. They really did their research and produced some great stuff. And they are very sandboxy in a way, but they're free flowing. They're in a way a lot different than their AD&D adventures, right? The AD&D adventures are story driven to some degree. And while Top Secret it was way more open platform, I guess.
I think we look at a lot of the early D&D modules with nostalgia covered eyes, because yes, they did have the Underdark ones, which were just like a giant hex crawl, all the D1, D2, D3, but really even their first issue modules were pretty much linear, that you had to go from here to here to here. I mean, there's notable exceptions. I think B2 is probably a notable exception.
Well, but Mike, the thing is, the original published adventures were often tournament adventures. And tournament adventures, you wanted more linear because you wanted everybody to have the similar experience that you're going to judge them against. And then they were like, oh, well, we got these adventures already written. We'll just convert them. And
I've never had a problem with those style adventures, to be honest with you. I like them a lot. Look, an adventure module still has to be an adventure module. You have to give the GM tools to start here and go here. So I'm okay with some linear stuff. And Rob Conley just typed in Drangolats. Okay, but that's where we jumped the shark. Okay, for me anyway, in my little world, that's when they had the idea, we're going to go from this to storytelling, because they wanted to replicate the Dragonlance book experience. And so they said, okay, this is a more storytelling adventure. And unfortunately for some people that don't like storytelling, which I'm not a big fan of storytelling, it caught on with a certain segment that's like, oh, I do want to play Caramon. This is awesome. And I can't die. I loved it, so it didn't catch on. And
early 5e, okay.
Yeah, you have storytelling games this day that are all about, I mean, God, you have cozy storytelling adventures where you're all at a garden party, and what was the one you advertised a while back? Eric, remember that one where your animals at a garden party or something? Did you do a video on that? I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't.
Oh, it's the Cabal Press one, right? What the fuck's it called?
Maybe I can't remember. But your animals at a
garden party. They kickstarted. It reminded me of
River something, right?
River something. It reminded me a lot of those rabbit books my aunt used to read to me when I was a kid.
Beatrice Potter.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, so some people they just love that shit. Oh, this is awesome! I get to play Mr. Weasel. Yeah, I'm Mr. Weasel. You're Mr. Fox, and there's Mr. Beaver, and we're all going to sit around and we're going to rescue the the quilt sale at the.
Oh my gosh, I got to interrupt because I'm going to get in trouble. The one thing I did forget to say were the Up the Beanstalk Ben Solo Adventure will be at NTX, the new big physical version, which is our first in our Fable series of solo adventures that we're doing. And these are not cozy fables, by the way. These are you're going to fucking die. So, but you get to play in it. You get to play in the universe of that Fable. But I better not forget. That's why I can say, yeah, I did bring up the Beanstalk. I completely forgot earlier.
So John brings up X1. That's also an excellent hex crawl.
Yes,
love that.
Really one of the best.
Yeah,
Isle of Dread, and then I have to give Paizo full credit when they expanded Isle of Dread in Dungeon Magazine over the course of 4 issues. It was a series of 4 issues that everybody would be well advised to hunt.
That was very much a labor of love. That's one of the few things that Paizo did really well, I thought, because those were issues. I still have those. Are very much a labor of love. Somebody really liked X1 Isle of Dread because they did it right. So
totally agree. And come on, right? You don't have to agree with us. I think one of the things that we're saying here is that there is identifiable waves of this stuff. Tournament play modules. You really have to get a bunch of rules lawyers to figure out how every single thing could possibly be used in a game. I was in a game of G1 in the Hill Giants. And Stone to Mud completely up into that module. Stone to Mud should not be a spell available to the party in G1 because if they're smart and they know how to use it, it's going to completely disrupt that module and blow it right up. And it did for us. But that tells me that somebody needs to go through and say, okay, these are the spells the characters have. They need to be rules lawyered to death until we know they can't screw up the game. They can't break the game any more than they will. But
I want to reply to a comment. So Shitty Mini, he said he invited me to Genghis Khan, and I played kind. I do remember being invited this year. I can't make it because of the. I couldn't make it because it was in February. I think I was really tired. I knew. Well, we were moving down to Florida, so I just knew January, February for me. This year. Come back to me next year because I'd love to go, honestly. So, if Shitty Mini, if you're paying attention, reach out to me and we'll look at making this happen. I'd love. It's out in Colorado. Looks great. Absolutely looks great.
Well, February, nice. Just don't. You may have to drive. Oh no, don't drive there. You just want to fly into.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not driving. No, we'll figure we got our shit out there via air, but we did it for Texas for so many years. So, but it looks like a great convention.
It's been going on quite a while. That's an old.
And I don't particularly have a problem with odd genres, right? Mouse Guard had an audience because the comic book was so big. I'm not against a well thought out, well executed RPG for kids that uses animals and so on and so forth. I think that's clever, right? We want more kids discovering the hobby, taking part, blah, 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 blah. I really just wish if you're going to do that, let's get some sort of, let's make a game where you explain to people there are adventures where you're going to go A, B, C, D, E, and then there are open sandbox, like help people understand the core concepts. Mm-hmm. And that way somebody can say, I want to run an adventure for my party that ding, 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 or I want to drop my party in and let them explore and so on and so forth.
And I will say, and look, this is very true. And I've had a lot of people talk about this in different forums I'm in. Not everybody likes a sandbox because I've had certain groups in some of the groups I'm in, or certain people in some of the groups I'm in say, look, I tried to run a sandbox and everybody stood around and stared at me and wanted to know what they need to do. And then they stood around and stared at each other. Then they fumbled around and one guy wanted to go north, this guy wanted to go south, the other guy wanted to go check out the lizardmen to the east, and then they just fought. So it's not for everybody. I would agree with that. It really is.
I could tell you it's not like because there's probably about 2 million people who play D&D who have no desire to play sandbox, and that's a lot of people who came into the hobby playing 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, which is not a sandbox game in any way, shape, or form. Right? Mm-hmm. It's just not. And it doesn't. I'm not saying it's a negative thing. Play D&D any way you want, but Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons is not sandbox amiable in any way, shape, or form. It's just not what the game's designed to do at all. You can do it with it, obviously, but they've brought in a whole generation of people to play D&D who are not doing that, right? They're being said, hey, you're going to create the character of your dreams, and you need to tell me what stories he wants to be in, and we're going to integrate all these things together. And I don't even know how they do it every night, but that's just what modern Dungeons and Dragons has turned into. It's not sandbox at all. But to be fair, you just see different players. I mean, my anecdotal story for me is, and I'll make it super quick. I was running an event in Michigan, one of my modules here in Michigan at I think it was a UConn a number of years ago, and I had a whole group of players, and they were all from the same gaming group, right? They were all friends, and all 6 or 7 of them. They gamed together, they played D&D together. I had to lead them through the dungeon like a dog on a leash. They just would, whoever their DM wasn't there, they would not do any. It was 2 hours of the most excruciating Dungeons and Dragons I've probably ever played in my life. It was like silence constantly. Like they were constantly waiting for me to just tell them what to do and where to go next and how to do things. And these were not young kids; these were older players.
So that's just what they'd always done. That
must be how they always played, right? That gave me the insight. I found they were all from the same game group. I'm like, wow, what does your game look like? It just.
You don't want to know.
You don't want to know. I mean, it's like, I don't know what you guys are playing, but you're not playing D&D. I mean, I hate to even say it that way, but it was painful. It was the longest, worst event I've ever run at a game convention in my life.
Well, I'll tell you, I run for years and years. I ran B1 and Search the Unknown for North Texas. And so B1 is, in a way, it's very, there's no theme. You just wander.
It's a good old monster hotel. Yeah.
So what I would do is
clear out those caves, kids.
So for B1, what I would do is I would give them an objective just to focus them enough so where they would what are we supposed to do? We're investigating the Quascaton. It's this empty fortress. Where do we go? I would give them an objective. So there was like 5 objectives, and before the game started, they would roll dice, so they would choose one. And the objectives always led to something on the lower level. So it would force them to go through the upper level, find a way down, and then go do that. Now, they didn't have to do that, but for the groups that needed focusing, because a lot of groups need focusing, that was very useful to them. Because then when they ever bogged down, they go, okay, guys, we got to get to the lower level and find the evil mage is supposedly in here. And so some people need that focusing. And I think especially, unfortunately, a lot of the people that play 5e and the newer versions, because that's built into the game. I remember talking to Alex Kamer once, and I'd read something he wrote. He goes, oh, did you like it? I said I liked it, but it was a little railroad. He goes, no, that's just 5e. I was like, what? He goes, 5e is just railroading. It's from A to B to C to D. I was like, wow, okay, I guess you're right. So it's just
It really is. If you read the campaign, I've read a lot of the campaign books, not all of them, but more the recent ones I've avoided. But even the early ones, they are extremely railroady. But that's just the play style. And again, if you have fun playing that way, then that's the way you should play D&D and have fun with it. And again, I'll pimp the upcoming Dungeon X here again. If you want to try something a little different, then you need to take a look at Dungeon X, because we're, I think, going back to a different play style.
I think where it becomes not really hard, I wouldn't say it's harmful, but where it becomes a bog down is when you get somebody that's all they started playing with 5e, and I've had this happen before. They get into another type of game, and they don't really know what to do because they've learned a certain style of playing. Now, and I always talk about this. When we started playing games, there was a lot of games out there, and nobody used the same system. You had D&D, you had RuneQuest, you had Call of Cthulhu, you had the FGU games. You had to learn like 17 different systems. It wasn't all just one thing. Now these kids are growing up, they're just playing 5e. That's all they play is 5e. And so when they get outside of 5e, they're stumped for what
I think there's a greater problem with it, Mike, too, is that the power creep that's come into 5e. And look, I understand we want to say it's it's superhero D&D, and it really is. I mean, it's a good describer of it. Where old D&D was kind of heroic D&D, and now it's like superhero D&D, and it kind of is what it is. But it's like everything they come out with, they keep having to just constantly creep that power level up to make the characters bigger, better, badder, and more options. Right? All you hear about player options, all those kinds of things. I mean, at a certain point, you just you're building that you're building so far outward that you're going to lose. You just lose your people, and it loses all its steam. And to me, that's the one of the dangers that Wizards of the Coast has fallen into. With their new, with their D&D, 2024, it's just an expansion, honestly, of 2014. But they just keep creeping up that power level. And I think even the people whose only experience is being D&D, you kind of get tired of that, right? I mean, it's just kind of like, it's like where Magic the Gathering has gone, right? I mean, if you take a look at Magic the Gathering cards from the 90s and look at them, you can't even use those cards in today's game because, every card, the most common basic card is the most killer card you ever saw in your life. I mean, I don't play Modern Magic, but I'm attuned to it a little bit. But I think that's one of the problems they run into with 2024 is they dialed up the power creep and they dialed up all that stuff. Really, they probably should have dialed it back, in my opinion. I know it would have been a hard thing to do.
But it's hard to go backwards, man.
It's hard to go backwards.
Going one way.
I'm telling you, when 6th edition comes out, I'm telling you, that's exactly what.
Look what happened to Palladium. Palladium's
mega damage.
Oh my gosh! It's just every book that would come out for Rifts, things just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And pretty sure there's just nowhere to go. I mean, Rifts, I think, is pretty much.
Where does it end? Right? Where does it end? This is the problem.
You can't even play Rifts. It's insane. Yeah. I mean, unless you go all the way back to the very beginning and say, okay, we're not going to use any of the supplements. We're playing Rifts as written. And
come on, Vampire one was a pretty good supplement for it. It was fun. Come on.
So it's interesting because a lot of people that I know, like some of the games that come along, like Shadow Dark's a great example. People that play 5e, OSC's another one too. There's a lot of
wait. We've reached the point of the episode where Mike has invoked Shadow Dark. Take a drink.
That's the first time I said it.
I think so. No, you said it earlier.
Oh.
I know, but I wasn't as quick on the updraw. So somebody gave me a couple of talking crit drinking game rules, and one of them is, when does Mike mention Shadow Dark?
Shadow Dark. I'll try to do it earlier if I need to drink better. But
or Jenny
things
D.
like that. So the OSC is another one because I've been to the OSC Discord pages, and half of them are old school players. The other half are 5e players that don't like 5e anymore. So you do get people that come from other games or come from 5e to other games because of one issue or another they didn't like about 5e. But a lot of times, like you said, Bill, it's the power creep. It's the fact that I played this game and I died, and like just that simple truth is like, wow, there was actual real stakes involved. I could actually die, and it was so cool that I could actually die. I mean,
and guess what? It didn't matter. That's the other thing, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything if you're playing your home game, you're playing an old school game, and half the party dies. It doesn't change. It doesn't change the adventure the GM's running. It doesn't change anything. You just roll up new characters and away you go. You just keep going. Versus a 5e game, man, that's just you kill a couple characters off. It's so story driven and narrative driven. It wrecks out. You can't kill them. You just can't.
But that is, like I said, that's stakes. You have to have stakes involved. And
I agree.
And I go back to this story I've told a billion times, but it's worth retelling. It's a young guy in Mandor, Texas, a few years ago. I asked him what he was doing. He said, I'm in this 5e game and I'm in this 1e game. I was like, well, that's interesting. I said that, because the kid's like 20 years old. I said, well, do you play? He goes, I play 5e, so I was in a 5e game. I said, why are you in the 1e game? Well, I wanted to see what D&D is like on the hard setting. And I was like, there you go. That's the kind of guy I wanted at the con. He wanted to try something new. He heard that early versions of D&D were tough and hard, and you could die, and you didn't have long heal, short heal, medium heal, tiny heal, big heal. You had to go with what you got. Once your cleric is out of heals, you're screwed. That's it. You're not gonna have a good time in the rest of the dungeon once you're out of heal. Or in Shadow Dark, once your torches are gone, you're gonna have a really bad time getting back to the surface. It's
gonna be tough in the dark.
So let me change this up completely because I want to throw you guys a
All right.
monkey wrench with 10 minutes left or whatever. So what do we think about Osric? Is Osric back? Or is it just a thing?
Man, I've got some thoughts about this. I love to have. Probably need to have Matt Finch on the show.
We're gonna have Matt on for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm surprised, but I'm not.
I have a lot of nostalgia for Osric, and so look, I'm going to start by saying that in the history of this hobby, when it's written, there better be a page or two for Matt Finch and Stewart, because what they do with Osric started the entire OSR movement. Because without them putting that out there and saying we're going to basically make a clone of 1E, and guess what, Watsy? Bing! We don't care what you think. Without that chutzpah there wouldn't have been Labyrinth Lord and Swords and Wizardry and basic fantasy role playing, and then that begot that. That begot this, and it grew from there.
I think the value that Osric brought into the industry was huge.
Now, having said that,
reasons, right? It has to be said. It should be like, I mean, the first 3 adventures that we did at Pacesetter were BX rules, pure and simple. They were BX. The next 3 years, we produced Osric adventures, almost exclusively. That's all we did. Everything we did was for Osric, but we noticed it was definitely on a downward trajectory. We could see it. The people we're talking to, everyone's saying, "Hey, we love what you do. Could you do it for different? Do it for Swords and Wizardry, or do it for classic D&D?"
Well, because Osric really wasn't supported. I mean, they just put out the book.
Right. It just there was no expansion.
Let me finish what I was going to say though.
Okay, go ahead.
So having said all that, I will say that I don't really know anybody that plays Osric, and the reason is because when Osric came out, there was no PDFs of the 1E rule books available anymore. WotC had pulled them off the market. It was tough to find a one. You would have to pay $50-$60 to get an authentic, first edition player's handbook. Then you'd have to get the Moss Running Head. So you're talking $150, investment there to get the regular. Yeah. There was no retro clones to speak of at all. So it kind of came into a market where, wow, this is really cool. I can play first edition D&D. If you go forward, 20 years now, there's a lot of options open. First of all, the rule books have been reprinted. Now they're still expensive relatively, but with the explosion of eBay, you have lots of ways you can get the original rule books. There's PDFs of the rule books out there. If not legal, there's tons of pirated ones. There's just a lot more. If you want to play 1E, it's not as hard as it was in 2005, 2006, 2007. Now, of course, then having said that, I don't see any harm in doing a new version of Osric. I'm interested to know what its place is going to be. I mean, does Matt?
I'm fascinated by it because
do they want to support this? I mean, he hasn't really supported Swords and Wizardry since he has got the rights back. I mean, he's not really published anything for Swords and Wizardry. Think about it; he hasn't since they got the rights back. So, are they going to support Osric? Is there actually going to be modules and supporting material for Osric? This is what I want to ask Matt, which is why we need to have Matt on the show. And so I don't know. So it depends on what he wants to do with the property. I would love to see Osric adventures. I would love to see that. That's what we need.
But you can get a reprint, a physical copy with premium paper of the 1E Player's Handbook for $22 on DriveThru.
So it's not the problem it was in 2000, whenever 2006.
It isn't the problem, and it isn't the problem. People figure out a way to say, "Hey, compatible with 1E," if the most famous RPG, people figure out how to publish for it. And honestly, we have already 2 printings of Osric. I don't know if there needs to be a third. What it does, aside from removing the OGL and moving to Creative Commons and I guess the ELF license from that, I don't know.
Well, that's probably why I guess we need to have Matt in the show then. We'll talk to him in North Texas, Eric, and we'll corral him. Me, you, and Jim.
I'm definitely going to talk to him.
We'll tell him that we need to have him on the show to explain.
I'm fascinated by it. I mean,
I think it's fascinating too. If they're going to support the material, I'm 100% thumbs up.
The Kickstarter's doing great. I mean, I've watched it. It's a constant upward trajectory. It's doing really, really well. So, I'm surprised, but it's one of those I'm surprised, but I'm not kind of thing. So,
I mean, I'll tell you too, look, the 1E rule books, God love them. We have nostalgia for them. There's no effing index in the book. You
No,
know? So
right, yeah.
Osric is great, and then you can find things. It's easy to find things. They're put in a logical order. It's a much easier book to deal with than the 1E. You know, the 1E.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan. I've never been a fan of the single rule book RPG. I can't, honestly, I can't stand it. I love me a player's guide and a DM's guide or adventure guide, whatever you want to call it, and a separate monster manual. I am the 3-book guy. I just love my stuff like that. It's one of the things that turned me off to like. I love the game that Mike likes to talk about. I mean, it's a fantastic thing. I wish it wasn't just one giant fucking book. It just drives me crazy. But I get why other people like it too. Now there's
practically, Jim. I mean, Bill. Practically, though.
I know from a publisher standpoint, you love it because you only got to print one book. I get that. And there's a money savings, but if you know anything about like Pacesetter, it's not what drives us. But we're always going to do something different. But I mean, that's the only thing. I would probably. I haven't really looked at that Kickstarter. It is just one book again, right? Or is it broken up?
I believe it's just one book. Yes. For what I remember, yes.
You have it open, Eric?
I'm trying to find it. I can't find it. So
is it on BackerKit or is it on?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
It's on. I believe it's on
Kickstarter. I can't remember.
Shit.
Searching for Osric gives me.
I just had it up the other day because I was just looking at it. It's on BackerKit. It's the BackerKit.
It's on BackerKit.
It's it's up to $140,000. Nice. That is great.
Yeah,
1,400 backers.
1,400 backers. I mean,
wow.
that's a number that stands out.
3 weeks to go. 3 weeks to go. That's great. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, no, it says here player's guide, GM guide, adventures, GM screen. So I guess I could have answered my own question if I had pulled my head out of my ass and looked at the.
So apparently,
well, it's going to have the GM guide and the player's guide. Then it's going to have three adventures. So there is going to be supporting adventures. And there's going to be a GM screen.
He did the same thing with Swords and Wizardry because
very good.
Benny wrote one of the Swords and Wizardry adventures.
That's right. Because I backed that. Yeah, you're right. And then also it says VTT support, which I don't really care about, but that'll be good for VTT players. So players. Okay, well, good. Well, I guess Matt, we don't need you. Sorry, false alarm. We don't need to have you on the show.
It's two different. It is two different books. That's cool.
That's their own question.
I'm going to have to ask that important question. Will I be able to read it without my readers?
Now that is, look, I don't want to throw cold water, but yeah, that's a consideration to me too. One reason I love Shadow Dark is because I can read it. And so,
OSC too.
Hold on, I'm drinking.
I can say the name. It's just the first time, right? It's not every time I say it.
But yeah, no, that to me, maybe I might just grab the PDFs, because then I can embiggen it on my screen.
Think about that. That's a good idea.
I think the trouble I have with all this, right, is that I never got swept up in the OSR because I still had all my books. And I know that I'm very system agnostic, right? I can take whatever system and tweak it.
Right.
And I genuinely never felt like I was compelled or something was compelling me to play this way. And I think that one of the most interesting things about Osric and the history and so on, there is a bit of anti-establishment, which is fine. I'm perfectly okay with that. But I just don't understand what was really holding. Why was Osric the thing that finally broke the dam? I don't get that because when did Osric come out? Osric came out.
Because yes, it has to do with legal. It's absolutely 100%. It all comes back to legal, Jim, because Matt's a lawyer, and
no, I get that. The question I have is, when did it come out?
2006.
2000 had to be 6, I think.
And by that time, the OGL was out for 3.0, right?
Yes,
but no one was using it to create rule books.
Okay,
right? So because Labyrinth Lore wasn't out yet either, right?
Right.
No. It was the first. Yeah, Osric was the first.
2006, and it was published in the UK to be under UK law, and then WotC sent an angry letter, and they just kind of ignored it. And then,
they famously ignored it when Matt basically told him I declined when they said,
Yeah.
and he just said, go. That was the whole, that was everything, because once Matt showed the Emperor had no clothes, everybody else said, oh, we
Oh, I
won't be
can do that
sued.
too.
We're
Yeah.
not going to be sued if we come up with a retroclone. That's when you had that's when, like I said, then Labyrinth Lord, then you had, you had the Swords of Wizardry, which was more of a, obviously an OD&D clone, basic fantasy role-playing, Chris Gonerman's rule book. You had all the, there was all these different variations. It just was a flood from 2006 to 2009, 8 or 9. It's just like whoosh, the floodgates were open.
Yeah.
But it was all because I think everybody was just too scared up until then.
I mean, Castle of Crusades was 2004, but it stuck very close to the 3rd edition rules in its formatting. And Matt just went, "Oh, I'm just going to rewrite 1E and say it's compatible," and that's what he did. So that opened the floodgates. That's why I consider Castle Crusades proto OSR, but Matt Osric launched the OSR.
Well, honestly, Castle Crusades really didn't break any rules, so to speak, because they weren't saying that this is a clone of 1E.
No,
I mean that was a big part of what Matt did. Matt basically was saying, look, this is a way to publish 1E adventures without getting into legal trouble. You could put Osric on it, and everybody knows it's a 1E adventure. What's his name's company? Jim and
Expeditious Retreat.
Yeah, Expeditious Press. The Brownings. They all their earlier modules were all Osric compatible. All that stuff was Osric compatible. And so people were making a living off of, we're going to publish. This is basically a code word for 1st edition adventure.
Are they still pretty?
I think they are, but it's not. They're a novel writing team now. They write about vampire detectives or something. I don't know. It's like X-Files stuff. I don't think they do I don't think they do the adventures anymore. I think they moved to like Sweden or somewhere to take advantage, kind of like Raggy did, to take advantage of printing rules overseas, and so they do that. And I don't think they publish a lot of adventures for Expeditious Press anymore.
But every once in a while they run a sale.
And I don't think they write anything. I think they might publish, but they're not the writers. They have people submit stuff, and then they publish it for them. But yeah, so it was, like I said, it was just the Magna Carta, just everything began there. And it was just so, unless you lived during that time, it's so hard to explain to people now what it was like living back then. And I tell this story a lot too. When I was first researching the idea to do North Texas with Doug, it was 2008, 9. And I remember looking at different conventions to see what their old school track was like. There were no old school tracks. There was not one single convention except for Total Con that had any old school games on the schedule. Everybody was running 3E. It was all 3E. Sure. Everybody. Now there probably was some old school games at like Gen Con or the bigger conventions, but every small convention I would go to, I would look on their page, look at their games. Zero old school games except for Total Con. Frank Menser was running. They had a special old school track for Frank's games, but there was nothing. Nobody was playing old school games. Our local game store, I ran a 2E campaign in the early aughts, and they did not allow you to play a game in the store that was not available in the store, because their idea was, if you can't bring in games that we don't sell here. I knew the owner. I got special dispensation to run a 2E game there because they didn't even want you to run 1E or 2E here. No, we don't sell that, so you can't run it here. We're selling 3E. Now, if you run 3E, we sell that here, so you can play a 3E game. I mean, that's how ostracized between the years of 2000 to 2006 old school gaming was. It just disappeared. It was nowhere. There was nobody publishing books for it, nobody publishing adventures. There was nobody running it at cons. It was just gone. And then now you look around, you look at how many conventions are dedicated to old school gaming, how many publications, how many entire companies like Pacesetter are just doing old school stuff. It's just incredible what's happened in the last 20 years.
If you would have asked me when we first started doing this in 2009, that I would still be doing it in 2025, I probably would have laughed at you. I mean, it is amazing that we've been doing this for. We're about to hit year 17 in October, so it's insane.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just absolutely crazy. And it's amazing too, because there's just so many people out there who love this stuff.
It's a golden age for our type. I mean, and look, if you cornered me in 2003, I was so depressed. I would have thought it's all dead. The only guys I had playing my games were old school guys that I
was completely out. I was out of
so
gaming from probably the late 90s until about 2007.
I thought it was over. I thought it was gone.
I stumbled upon the Achaeum in like 2008 or 2007.
That was a big, that was a big moment for me too, Bill, because I met John Lyle there. I met a lot of people.
I met all you guys
there. And so that was actually a big moment for me too, because I realized there was a lot of people out there that also
people are still doing this. Yeah. I hadn't been to Gen Con in years, and I'm like, a bunch of the Achaeum guys were all going to Gen Con. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going.
Yeah, we all went 2008, 2009, or 2007.
We had the Achaeum dinner like 2 or 3 years in a row. It was great.
It was great. That was good because you were like, there's other people out there that also like this. Of course, now there's tons of people out there,
right.
And people that are playing someone like Shadow Dark don't even know they're playing something old school influence, but it is. It's very old school influence. You don't have to drink, Jim.
Oh, yes, you do. Well, I think we've reached the witching hour. So,
all right.
Bill, do you want anything to wrap up? You got some good anything to wrap up?
You got anything to pimp? Or North Texas? We're pimping.
Besides North Texas?
Yeah, no, I think I've talked on enough already. So, Holmes books, it's exciting. They're going to be great. If you like I said, if you like that kind of stuff, I think it's a great product. And like I said, we got some cool Gamma World, Gamma X stuff coming out, convention, blah, blah, blah. Up to Beanstalk. Can't forget Up to Beanstalk Solo Adventure. It's absolutely fabulous. And kicking off that whole series we're doing, which we're really excited about. So
I want one of all the things. So yes.
If you're at North Texas, which is in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks, Gary. 3 fucking weeks.
Yeah.
I'm bringing a whole entourage to Mike. We're bringing so Ben's flying down from Michigan, obviously. But my daughter Anna's coming. And
she's awesome. Yeah, I love Anna.
She's bringing her boyfriend, who's also Ben, by the way. But they're both coming too. I know how'd that work out.
Very cool.
He's an awesome guy. He's really awesome. But he's never been to a D&D convention, so that'll be fun.
And he's never been to the midnight auction.
No, neither's Anna. She's never been to that either. So she went to LongCon with me last year, which was fun.
I did have a bit of sad news because my grandson texted me the other day. He said, I'm not going to be back in time. He's still in Jordan. Not going to be back in time. He said, Papa, do you realize it's the first North Texas I've missed since 2011? Wow. I was like, man, I'm so sorry, pal. And he is just bummed. I don't know whether he misses that more or seeing his son yet that he never seen yet. It's a toss-up, probably. I would say it's probably a toss-up. So, should he see his son or should he see North Texas?
His son.
Yeah, he'll be back the end of June, it looks like. And so he was really bummed out because he has caught them all since he was 10 years old. So
yeah. Midgets running around.
If you're at North Texas, these 4 people will be there.
We will
buy Mike a drink.
No.
You don't want a sober Mike. You want a very happy Mike.
I can beat Gary to the punch. So Gary did really outdo himself with the food trucks this year. So we've got a really nice variety. You've got barbecue, we got tacos, you got the ham lady that does the breakfast.
Breakfast.
Oh my God, those are so good. But he's got like a sub and hot dog truck coming. He's got a burger truck coming, and I think he's going to start getting on the line.
Thanks to the biker gang that had a convention at the North Texas or at Weston
game day.
We had our game day. And they had some incredible food trucks out there.
Really?
I think Gary poached almost all of them, I believe, because they were fantastic. Gosh, there were some good food trucks out there. So yes, the biker
those
gang.
Those people knew how to eat.
They didn't realize how much they loved our convention. They had a biker gang there. Then they were telling us how we love you guys so much. It's like, So I think they made a lot of money off the biker game though, because that hotel was packed, guys.
The hotel was
absolutely packed to the.
I was not expecting that.
there was entire floors you couldn't go on from what we had heard. Bill, remember there was
I know. I
The
heard
security stationed at the door, right? At the elevator.
There was one floor that they put us on. They said, "Oh, you're not with the biker group. We're going to put you on another floor." We're like, "Uh-oh." And then so it was pretty rough stuff on that floor from we had.
My floor was. I had no trouble where I was at.
I didn't have any problems either. Look, everybody I met there was absolutely awesome. All the biker dudes were awesome. So it was an experience though. It was absolutely an experience.
A cross-cultural experience.
There you go.
Oh, it wasn't just a biker game, by the way. It was an African American biker.
It was an African American biker group,
and they're one of the biggest biker organizations in the United States. Yes, so we were the minority at that convention, very much so. But a lot of them would walk in the room we were in and go, "What are you guys doing in here?" Like, oh,
they were great. Yeah,
and there was more than one of them that said, "Oh yeah, I used to play D&D." Like, cool. I mean, they knew exactly what was going on. They're like, "Oh yeah, this is cool." So it was very interesting. Like I said, most people I ran into, they were really nice. They were very, very nice people. So, but it was as loud as we are at the convention. They were that loud till 4 a.m.
Oh, it was it was off
everywhere downstairs. They were loud and they were having a good time. Let me tell you. They were having a
remember, folks, 3 weeks. We're going to be doing this from North Texas at the pre-con Get It On. We'll be back the following week as usual. And then that weekend after North Texas, I'm going to be at Central New York Con. So
that's right.
Yes. So,
and by the way, so we're going to use our time at North Texas. We'll talk to people like Matt Finch. And we're going to arrange a nice little slate of hopefully guests all through the summer, because we'll talk to Matt, obviously, because I'd love to have Matt on again, and we'll talk to whoever we run into there that we think would be great to have on the show. We'll get them up here.
Yep. So thank you for reminding me. Chubby Funster is running a sale. If you don't know who Chubby Funster is, it's Greg Christopher. It's some really deep cuts on his PDFs. So.
You'll be at North Texas also. So
he'll be at North Texas.
Yes.
10 cars-tavern.game/chubby. You go through the link. I think the sale ends tonight. You help this channel out. I get the affiliate sales. I know he's done some amazing sales. If nothing else, get the it's a lot of stuff for Shadow Dark.
Oh, there it is.
But he has a Dark Sun riff, which is awesome. He has a Skyrim riff, which is really well done. So,
by the way, Shadow Rim is the short list for 3 Castles Award too. So congratulations, Greg.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I saw your list. It was cool.
So. Yeah, it's very good. It's very good. I'm a huge Skyrim fan, and everything that you'd like about Skyrim is in that game. So that's awesome,
including potion creation. I understand. So,
yes, potion creation. But he, like I said, if you know what Skyrim and what's so great about Skyrim, he managed to put that all into an RPG. So it's very cool. With by the way, following off all the numbers, so he doesn't get in trouble with
Yes.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to get shut down, but.
So, folks, as always. Oh, and tomorrow, likely at 12 o'clock, I think we're doing a live stream. Glenn and myself. We shall. I got to get up just to make sure, and to sleep in. Again, thank you to my co-hosts. Thank you to Bill. Be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice. Roll them well.
Great to see you, Bill.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Next live stream's like we got Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. You know the deal.
Oh dear.
Know the deal.
When you get retired, there's nothing to do in that Eric.
Nothing.